Chapter 1694. The headquarters of a human race alliance was actually not in Tiangang City, but on Tiangang Mountain behind Tiangang City. After all, the human race alliance was a major force of the entire human race. A mere city could not accommodate too many of their powerhouses. The 6 powerhouses on the Saint leaderboard that Murong Yu was chasing happened to have all gone up Tiangang Mountain and disappeared without a trace. Murong Yu rose into the air and finally stood in the sky to look at Tiangang Mountain. Tiangang Mountain was extremely vast and extended endlessly. However, the entire mountain was shrouded in white mist. People outside could not see what Tiangang Mountain looked like at all. An extremely powerful divine consciousness extended out, but after coming into contact with the fog, it could not go any further. Presumably, the entire Tiangang Mountain was enveloped by a large formation, right? Not only did the large formation block people's vision, but it also blocked divine consciousness. Murong Yu did not barge in directly, but he also knew that ordinary people could not enter Tiangang Mountain at all. In fact, that formation was a terrifying killing formation. If one rashly went in, there would probably not be much left of them. Of course, Murong Yu's physique made him extremely terrifying. Any formation and restriction in front of him were like nothing. They could not stop Murong Yu at all. However, it was easy to enter Tiangang Mountain, but it was difficult to leave. The Human Race Alliance was the alliance of the entire human race, and it was filled with countless powerhouses. Murong Yu dared to be sure that there were at least 100 powerhouses on the Saint leaderboard in the Human Race Alliance. Moreover, there were definitely people who were ranked extremely high on the Saint leaderboard. It was said that apart from Yu Yangjia, there was another powerhouse in the top 10 of the Saint leaderboard. Who was this person? Would he appear in the Human Race Alliance? Murong Yu could not say. Furthermore, the Human Clans Alliance had stirred up so much trouble just to kill Murong Yu. This was clearly a trap. Would Murong Yu still jump into it? Of course. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already close to the fog outside Tiangang Mountain. However, he was already invisible at this moment. Murong Yu was not stupid enough to rush in openly. He hadn't recovered his soul power yet. Just when Murong Yu was about to enter Big Dipper Mountain, his heart moved. He turned his head and looked towards Big Dipper City. At the same time, his frown deepened. Why is Feng Tsangqiong here? Yes, Murong Yu felt Feng Tsangqiong's aura in Dipper City. Didn't Feng Tsangqiong originally return to the Feng clan? Why did he come back? Moreover, it came so quickly. Could it be that he also had Murong Yu's ability to sense auras in the void? Murong Yu also had doubts in his heart, but the first person he suspected was Feng Qianquan, who was in Hichu Luoshu. Thus, he found Feng Qianquan. Ha ha! Feng Qianquan laughed out loud. Murong Yu, no matter how powerful you are, there's no place for you in the holy world. As long as senior brother Tsangqiong doesn't die, he will know your location. Murong Yu's face suddenly turned gloomy as he looked at Feng Qianquan with murderous intent. However, Feng Qianquan still didn't reveal how Feng Tsangqiong tracked Murong Yu. Forced to helplessly, Murong Yu finally read Feng Qianquan's memory. At this moment, Murong Yu finally knew why Feng Tsangqiong kept chasing him. Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear. This was the Feng clan's most powerful supreme weapon. In addition to its terrifying power, it also had a very hateful ability. It could track the enemy. Of course, the Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear wasn't so heaven-defying that it could track anyone. The reason why it could track Murong Yu was because this spear was stained with Murong Yu's blood. In the previous battle, Murong Yu would inevitably bleed. After being stained with Murong Yu's blood, the Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear could roughly sense Murong Yu's location. Within a certain distance, the Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear wouldn't lose Murong Yu's senses. Could it be that this bastard will be following behind me in the future? After knowing this, Murong Yu suddenly felt depressed. It was quite easy to stop Feng Tsangqiong from chasing him. Directly kill him or erase Murong Yu's aura left on the Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear. However, both of these were almost impossible to do, at least at this stage. Of course, erasing the aura on the Phoenix Plume Netherworld Spear was a little bit more likely than killing Feng Sanxiong, but it was only a little bit. Since he couldn't kill the other party at this stage, and this guy was following him all day, then he would find something for him to do now. Murong Yu pondered in his heart, and a sinister smile suddenly appeared on his face. Immediately, his figure shook and he canceled the concealment. At the same time, his aura seemed to have inadvertently leaked out. Feng Sanxiong hated Murong Yu to the extreme and was also very sensitive to Murong Yu's aura. Coupled with his powerful strength, he instantly discovered Murong Yu on Big Dipper Mountain. Murong Yu! Feng Sanxiong roared in his heart. He took a step forward and shot towards Murong Yu with a long spear in his hand. At this time, Murong Yu didn't seem to have discovered Feng Sanxiong at all. He turned around and entered the fog that shrouded Big Dipper Mountain. "Where do you think you're going?" Feng Sanxiong roared. The long spear in his hand shattered hundreds of millions of space-time and erupted with a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. He ruthlessly stabbed towards the place where Murong Yu disappeared. In a split second, Feng Sanxiong's attack fiercely bombarded the fog and the Great Array of the Human Race Alliance. Suddenly, the Great Array trembled violently from the bombardment. Rays of sacred light soared into the sky. The entire Great Array was directly activated. Even more, rays of power rolled up and directly pounced towards Feng Sanxiong. "Still want to trick me?" Feng Sanxiong was furious. He thought that the array set up by Murong Yu was to trick him, so he roared again and again. The long spear in his hand quickly waved, striking out rays of terrifying power towards the Great Array. The Great Array was stimulated to tremble constantly. Looking from afar, it seemed that the entire Big Dipper Mountain was experiencing an earthquake. It was as if the heaven and earth were falling apart. At this time, inside Big Dipper Mountain, countless disciples of the Human Race Alliance who didn't have high cultivation were directly sent flying. Some people were even directly shaken to the point of spurting out blood. The void trembled and the power swept across. In an instant, the Human Race Alliance was caught off guard. However, the Human Race Alliance was the Human Race Alliance after all. It gathered the most powerful forces of the human race and had a lot of talents. Naturally, their array was also extremely powerful. When the array was activated, the aftermath of Feng Sanxiong's attack couldn't hit the Human Race Alliance. It was even directly transferred by the array and finally bombarded towards Feng Sanxiong. Which madman dares to wreak havoc here? When the Great Array was attacked, not only were the ordinary people of the Human Race Alliance stunned, even the higher-ups of the Human Race Alliance were stunned. This was the first time the headquarters of the Human Race Alliance was attacked since its establishment. Could it be that the people of the demon race, or the sacred race, are attacking? The higher-ups of the Human Race Alliance looked at each other, and each of them flew out of the Great Array with a dignified expression. When they saw Feng Sanxiong alone, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief in their hearts. But soon, their hearts were in their throats again. There was no other reason but because Feng Sanxiong's strength was too terrifying. "Are you all Murong Yu's helpers? In that case, I will kill all of you." Seeing an expert rushing out, Feng Sanxiong didn't have any fear. On the contrary, he grinned and directly launched an attack on these people. Feng Sanxiong's current strength could already erupt with the power of a general supreme weapon. Although these experts of the Human Race Alliance had good strength, who dared to confront Feng Sanxiong directly? Realizing that the situation wasn't good, these experts of the Human Race Alliance once again rushed into the Great Array with their tails between their legs. Fully activate the array and kill this madman. Invite out the supreme weapon to kill this traitor. Inform all the sacred lords and invite out the experts of the sacred ranking to kill this villain. After retreating into the array, the Human Race Alliance launched a counterattack. As a result, the array became even more terrifying. It erupted with a terrifying aura to strangle Feng Sanxiong. Even their supreme weapons were jointly brought out by them to suppress Feng Sanxiong. With the combination of the array and the supreme weapon, Even if Feng Sangxiong was powerful, he was also directly repelled. After all, he wasn't supreme. If he was, he would be able to shatter this great array with a slap. What a good Morongyu. He actually invited so many experts. Is he trying to kill me? Feng Sangxiong was furious and immediately launched the most violent counterattack. As a result, the two sides started fighting. However, what made them depressed was that they didn't know who the other party was. However, Feng Sangxiong was better. At least he felt that the experts of the Human Race Alliance were invited by Murongyu to deal with him. You guys continue to fight like dogs. Murongyu, who was invisible, saw the two sides fighting, so he sneered in his heart. Then, he hid in Tiangang Mountain and looked for the 6 experts of the sacred ranking. Whether it was Feng Sangxiong or the Human Race Alliance, they were all Murongyu's opponents. It would be better if they both suffered. After a while, Murongyu finally found the 6 experts of the sacred ranking. However, what made Murongyu depressed was that these 6 bastards were attacking Feng Sangxiong. Murongyu also didn't discover the aura of Kurlan and the others. In other words, those 6 experts of the sacred ranking were still imprisoning them in the spatial treasure. Murongyu was helpless. At this time, who knew if those 6 experts of the sacred ranking didn't give their spatial treasure to other people? Even if Murongyu took action to control those 6 experts of the sacred ranking, it would be a waste of effort. What's more, although Murongyu could easily capture them, this was the other party's nest. How could he make a move? Unless he controlled all the experts of the sacred ranking. However, this was impossible. There were still extremely terrifying existences in the Human Race Alliance. Moreover, there were several supreme weapons. In addition to the array, once Murongyu made a move, he would be trapped here instead. Chapter 1695. Feng Sangxiong, it's you. How dare you attack our Human Clan Alliance? Do you want the Human Clan to go to war with the Phoenix Clan? An expert on the Saint ranking flew out from the Human Clan Alliance. When he appeared outside the Tiangang Mountain Array, he only glanced at Feng Sangxiong and recognized his identity. What? He's that Feng Sangxiong? Hearing this, many experts on the Saint ranking of the Human Clan Alliance reacted. Although Feng Sangxiong was a super existence ranked 11th on the Saint ranking, not every expert on the Saint ranking knew him. At most, they only knew of his existence. Human Clan Alliance? The experts on the Saint ranking of the Human Clan Alliance were shocked by Feng Sangxiong's identity, but they didn't know that Feng Sangxiong was even more shocked. The Human Clan relied on this Human Clan Alliance to block the invasion of the Sacred Clan and the Demon Clan. Of course, this was something that happened a long time ago. The current Human Clan Alliance had changed a long time ago. But even so, the strength of the Human Clan Alliance was still extremely powerful. However, the Human Clan Alliance was very mysterious. Although he had dealt with the Human Clan Alliance before, Feng Sangxiong didn't know that the headquarters of the Human Clan Alliance was in Tiangang City. In fact, when the Sacred Clan and the Demon Clan were at war, the two clans didn't attack the center of the Human Clan's territory, which was the Human Clan Alliance. Moreover, the Human Clan Alliance was jointly controlled by the 10 sacred lands and could mobilize all the cultivators of the entire Human Clan. Ordinary rogue cultivators didn't have anything to do with it, even if they didn't listen to the orders. But those forces were different. How would they dare to not listen to the orders? If they didn't listen, the Human Clan Alliance would definitely not be soft-hearted and would directly send a large number of experts to destroy the orthodoxy. When the Human Clan Alliance was just established, they joined forces to destroy a few disobedient peak forces, which intimidated countless people. When the Human Clan Alliance mobilized these forces, they didn't let them come to Tiangang City at all. Instead, they had a temporary command center. Those who were qualified to enter Tiangang City were the absolute core. Of course, there were still many ordinary saints in the Human Clan Alliance. Most of them were in charge of miscellaneous tasks, while some were the higher-ups of the Human Clan Alliance. Human Clan Alliance? I was set up by Murongyu. After knowing that they were attacking the headquarters of the Human Clan Alliance, Feng Sangxiong was immediately stunned. Then, he realized that he had been tricked by Murongyu. This was because they already knew that the infernal agency had been kicked out of the Human Alliance. It was impossible for Murong Yu to still be in the Human Race Alliance. The Human Race Alliance was terrifyingly powerful. Should they leave just like that? Feng Sanxiong's face was somewhat gloomy. His murderous intent towards Murong Yu was becoming more and more violent. Feeling Feng Sanxiong's incomparably violent, murderous aura, the people of the Human Race Alliance mistakenly thought that Feng Sanxiong was targeting them. If I leave now, then they will mistakenly think that I'm afraid of the Human Race Alliance. Feng Sanxiong pondered in his heart. He knew that the Human Race Alliance didn't only have these experts. Which of the 9 great holy lands didn't have a few experts on the saint rankings? Moreover, every holy land had at least one supreme artifact. If those holy lands all came with supreme weapons, then they didn't need to make a move. They only needed to use their supreme weapons to kill Feng Sanxiong. Not to mention that Feng Sanxiong wasn't a supreme artifact. Even if he was, he wouldn't be able to withstand the bombardment of 10 to 20 supreme weapons at the same time. With a thought, Feng Sanxiong laughed sinisterly. He had already retreated and stopped attacking. Then he looked at the experts on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance and sneered. Do you know why I'm here? Why did I suddenly attack your Human Race Alliance? Could it be that I'm so arrogant that I want to destroy your Human Race Alliance alone? What is it? One of the experts on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance couldn't help but ask. Although the other experts on the saint rankings were speechless at this expert, they still turned to look at Murong Yu, because that person had asked what was in their hearts. I'm chasing after Murong Yu. As for why Murong Yu is here, I don't know. Hearing this, the experts on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance's side suddenly changed their faces. Then, they became a little strange and even a little happy. Seeing the expressions of the experts of the Human Race Alliance, Feng Sanxiong sneered in his heart. Murong Yu, didn't you trick me? I'll make it clear now. Let's see where you can escape to. I see. Murong Yu actually dares to barge into my Human Race Alliance. He really deserves to die. However, this is my business. Feng Sanxiong, do you want to continue attacking or go back? The expert on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance who came out later looked at Feng Sanxiong and said in a deep voice. This was an eviction order. How could Feng Sanxiong not understand the logic? However, it was precisely because he understood it that he was unhappy in his heart. However, he also knew that if he continued to attack the Human Race Alliance or didn't leave, the experts of the Human Race Alliance would definitely kill him. Immediately, he laughed and took a step forward, disappearing from the Big Dipper Mountain. However, he didn't leave. He just distanced himself from the Big Dipper Mountain. Feeling the trembling of the phoenix plume nether spear in his hand, Feng Sanxiong sneered in his heart. Now, he knew that Murong Yu was still in the Human Race Alliance. Murong Yu, I won't let you go. It's best if both of you are injured, Feng Sanxiong said with resentment. He had already concealed himself and was lurking here, watching the Human Race Alliance from afar. Murong Yu has indeed fallen into the trap. He entered the Human Race Alliance so quickly. After Feng Sanxiong left, an expert on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance said excitedly. Sure enough, it was a plot against Murong Yu. Don't be happy too early. Murong Yu isn't an idiot. You should have already guessed that this is our trap. Moreover, where's Murong Yu now? Another expert on the saint rankings said in a deep voice. The faces of the experts on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance suddenly darkened. So what if Murong Yu had sneaked into the Human Race Alliance? It was useless if they couldn't find Murong Yu. Activate all the arrays and restrictions and seal this void. We can't let Murong Yu escape into the void. Take out all the supreme weapons and shake Murong Yu out of the void for me. The expert on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance who came out last seemed to be the leader. At this moment, he gave the order. By now, the world had a better understanding of Murong Yu. Murong Yu had the chaotic celestial body, physique, and possessed the Hichu Luo Shu. However, his soul was a saint. Moreover, Murong Yu could conceal himself. Hichu Luo Shu could teleport. As long as the void was sealed, Murong, you wouldn't be able to enter Hichu Luo Shu. And the best way to deal with concealment was to shatter the void. Therefore, the experts on the saint rankings of the Human Race Alliance took their positions. At the same time, the rulers of the 9 great holy lands who had received the news also came. Every one of them was a fierce expert in the top 100 of the saint rankings. Every one of them had a supreme weapon on them. Moreover, they'd been masters of the weapons for many years and could more or less wield a portion of the weapon's power. In the Great Hall of the Human Race Alliance, Feng Yongji, the temple master of the true martial sacred hall, sat in the main seat and looked indifferently at the rulers of the 9 great holy lands. Feng Yongji was the current leader of the Human Race Alliance. Of course, it was impossible for Feng Yongji to stay in this position forever. The position of Alliance Master of the Human Race's Great Alliance was rotated by the 9 great holy lands. You've searched the void and the earth, but there's no trace of Murong. Feng Yongji asked in a low, dark voice. Some of the other rulers and core members of the Human Race Alliance nodded in agreement. There was nothing they could do. Even the experts on the saint rankings couldn't find any trace of Murong. Murong's concealment abilities are extremely powerful, and he's treacherous and full of tricks. We've taken his women and children, so he'll definitely come to rescue them, Feng Yongji said again. However, when he said this, he was sweating profusely in his heart. The other rulers of the 8 great holy lands felt the same way. They were experts on the saint rankings, the rulers of the 9 great holy lands. It was too degrading to use a person's family to threaten him. However, they were determined to get Murong. They didn't care about anything else. The entire Tiangang Mountain has been sealed. I don't believe he can leave Tiangang Mountain unless he's a supreme. Looks like we'll have to do it ourselves. When we find that little bastard, don't snatch him from me. I'll kill him first, Shui Juanhao, the sect master of Tiangang sect, said murderously. Aside from the true martial temple, who had a huge grudge against Murong, there was only the Tiangang sect present. Tiangang sect hated Murong even more than true martial sacred hall. There was no other reason. Murong had killed 2 experts on the saint rankings from Tiangang sect. Tiangang sect didn't have many experts on the saint rankings to begin with. They were the type that would have one less if one died. True martial sacred hall only lost 1 expert on the saint rankings, but Tiangang sect had 2. This was a huge loss. It was no wonder Shui Juanhao was so murderous. If he knew that Tiangang sect had another expert on the saint rankings who was Murong's slave, what would he think? I don't believe that we can't find Murong even if we attack. However, Alliance Master, you have to keep an eye on Murong's wife and children. They're Murong's lifeblood. As long as they're in our hands, Murong will have no choice but to compromise. The island master of Cloud-Piercing Island was a skinny old man with a malicious expression. His name was Song Tian. At this moment, he was laughing sinisterly. He didn't feel ashamed at all about capturing Murong's wife and children to threaten him. Shameless old man. The others cursed in their hearts. Song Tian was vicious and had done things that were even more shameless than this. Feng Yongji nodded. Then, everyone left the main hall and started to attack. However, what made them depressed was that they couldn't find any trace of Murong even if they attacked. It was as if Murong wasn't even on Tiangang Mountain. So much so that even they began to wonder if Murong had really come to Tiangang Mountain. If there's no other way, spread the word. If Murong doesn't come, we'll kill one a day. If he doesn't come, we'll kill all of his wife and children, Song Tian said viciously. Chapter 1696. Even the rulers of the 9 great holy lands couldn't find Murong. Then where was Murong? Had he already left Tiangang Mountain? If the people of the Human Race Alliance asked Feng Songxiong would answer with certainty. Murong was still in Tiangang Mountain and hadn't left. Then, where was Murong? Murong had already sneaked into the Human Race Alliance. But after not finding Lan and the others, Murong didn't leave. He also knew that these people had a series of conspiracies against him. If he stayed in Tiangang Mountain, he would definitely be discovered and he might not be able to escape. Therefore, before they sealed the void, Muronyu had already entered Hichu Luoshu. And Hichu Luoshu had turned into a particle that even spiritual sense couldn't detect and was attached to a primal chaos ancestor saint. And this primal chaos ancestor saint status in the Holy Lands was also not bad. When Feng Yongji and the others were having a meeting in the main hall, this person was waiting outside the main hall for orders. However, what made Muronyu helpless was that Feng Yongji and the others had set up a restriction on the entire main hall during the meeting. They couldn't hear their conversation at all. Of course, if Muronyu wanted to go in, these restrictions and arrays couldn't stop him. But wouldn't that be discovered? Therefore, Muronyu didn't leave the body of this primal chaos ancestor saint. A few days passed like this, but Muronyu still didn't find the footprints of Kurlan and the others. And the Human Race Alliance didn't take any action. They just searched Tiangang Mountain again and again, but they didn't find any trace of Muronyu. Both sides were depressed, and Feng Sangqiong was also depressed. For a few days, he knew that Muronyu was in Tiangang Mountain, but he didn't know what had happened inside. Was Muronyu suppressed? Or is he not discovered? Feng Sangqiong stood in the sky and looked at Tiangang Mountain with a gloomy face. He was determined to get Muronyu, but the Human Race Alliance was a colossus. Did someone come out? Just when Feng Sangqiong was looking at Tiangang Mountain, a figure flew out from the heavy fog of Tiangang Mountain. Furthermore, he wasn't even on the saint rankings. Feng Sangqiong sneered in his heart. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. Whoosh! The primal chaos ancestor sacred who came out of Big Dipper Mountain didn't even have time to react before he was restrained by Feng Sangqiong. Then, Feng Sangqiong directly read his soul. While this primal chaos ancestor sacred was in shock and fury, Feng Sangqiong had already obtained the information he needed. With a slight smile, Feng Sangqiong's figure flashed again and disappeared on the spot. The primal chaos ancestor sage of the human race alliance instantly regained control of his body. What's the situation? Am I hallucinating? The primal chaos ancestor sage shook his head in confusion. Just now, he had clearly been restrained by someone and even had his memories read. But now, it seemed like nothing had happened. Keeping the doubts in his heart, this primal chaos ancestor sage quickly disappeared from Tiangang Mountain. People of the Human Race Alliance, come out. Feng Sangqiong once again arrived outside the Human Race Alliance. He slammed his palm on Tiangang Mountain's great array and roared at the same time. It's that bastard again. Hearing Feng Sangqiong's voice, the faces of the Human Race Alliance's experts on the saint rankings turned gloomy. Feng Sangqiong was really too presumptuous. What did he take the Human Race Alliance's headquarters for? Coming and going as he pleased? Was this an inn? Now that the Alliance Master and the others are also here, I think it's better to kill Feng Sangqiong directly. An expert on the saint rankings said viciously. Let's go out and meet this expert who is ranked 11th on the saint rankings. After learning the situation, the Alliance Master of the Human Race Alliance and the Temple Master of the True Martial Temple, Feng Yongji, had a cold, murderous intent in his eyes. Then, he quickly appeared outside the heavy fog with everyone. Seeing Feng Yongji and the others, Feng Sangqiong was taken aback. His heart was shrouded by a dangerous aura. He knew that with the strength of Feng Yongji and the others, they could definitely kill him. Once they took out the supreme weapon, even if Feng Sangqiong could unleash a part of the supreme weapon's power, the outcome would be very tragic. Feng Sangqiong, why are you yelling here? Feng Yongji stepped out and looked at Feng Sangqiong with a gloomy face. After the shock, Feng Sangqiong's face returned to calmness. With his strength, as long as he wasn't trapped in the array and restriction, it wouldn't be easy for Feng Yongji and the others to kill him. I heard that you haven't caught Muronyu yet? Feng Sangqiong went straight to the point. Hearing this, the faces of Feng Yongji and the others were quite ugly. Although Muronyu was also an expert on the saint rankings, they had more experts on the saint rankings. Moreover, they were under heavy siege. But even so, they didn't even see Murongyu's shadow. This was simply a disgrace to the Human Race Alliance. Now, Feng Sangxiong said in front of them with a sneer. Was he ridiculing their Human Race Alliance for being trash? Feng Sangxiong, don't think that you're invincible just because you're 11th on the Saint rankings. Do you believe that I won't let you go back? A gloomy voice came. The one who spoke was the island master of Piercing Cloud Island, Song Tian. Feng Sangxiong was very unhappy. Although Song Tian was a terrifying existence in the top 100 of the Saint rankings, he was still not enough in front of him. If this guy dared to talk to him like this in other places, he would have already been slapped to death by him. For trash like him, he could slap a large number of them to death with one slap. However, today, Feng Sangxiong didn't want to kill people, but wanted to cooperate with them. After all, killing Murong Yu is his main goal now. I know that Murong Yu is still in Tiangang Mountain, but you can't find him yet. Therefore, I want to cooperate with you to find Murong Yu together. Feng Sangxiong swept a cold glance at the others and finally, his eyes landed on Feng Yongji's face. What a joke. Murong Yu has already been captured by us. There's no need for you to send a message. Tiangang Sect Master Shui Juanhao said faintly. Although he was surprised that Feng Sangxiong knew about the Human Race Alliance and was certain that Murong Yu was in Tiangang Mountain. But these were the Human Race Alliance's matters. If Feng Sangxiong wanted to intervene, he would definitely take away a part of the benefits. Their Human Race Alliance didn't have enough to share, so why would they bring Feng Sangxiong along? Feng Sangxiong smiled faintly. If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have appeared here. I'll tell you frankly, without me, you won't be able to find Murong Yu at all. I hope that you'll cooperate with me. After finding Murong Yu, I only need to kill him with my own hands. At the same time, I only want a treasure on him. Song Tian smiled sinisterly. Feng Sangxiong, you really think too highly of yourself. Without you, we can still kill Murong Yu. Song Tian was very angry in his heart. Feng Sangxiong exposed the scar in front of him, making him unhappy. But it wasn't that he didn't have a way to force Murong Yu out. As long as he threatened Murong Yu with Ker Lan and the others, Murong Yu would naturally come out. It was just that Feng Yongji and the others didn't agree with him to do so. Once this matter was spread out, all of their old faces would be lost. Moreover, the reputation of the few holy lands would also plummet. All right, I agree. But Murong Yu's body and Hichu Luoshu will belong to us. You can only choose one other treasure. After pondering for a while, Feng Yongji agreed. In fact, except for Song Tian, the other Holy Lands leaders also agreed. All right, Feng Sangxiong agreed immediately. In fact, this was just an excuse. Once he found Murong Yu and killed him, he would definitely snatch all the treasures and body of Murong Yu. After all, who didn't want to be a chaotic celestial body? That was something that could allow one to become a chaos controller. So after the two sides discussed some things, Feng Sangxiong followed Feng Yongji and the others into Tiangang Mountain. After the two sides entered, all the restrictions and arrays of Tiangang Mountain were activated again, firmly sealing the entire Tiangang Mountain. Feng Sangxiong, it's your turn to make a move. I'd like to see how you'll find Murong Yu. Song Tian looked at Feng Sangxiong unhappily as he spoke sinisterly. His eyes were filled with disdain. Feng Sangxiong looked at Song Tian disdainfully, and a cold, murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He really wanted to kill this bastard who made him uncomfortable all over, but business was more important now. So he took out the Phoenix Plume Nether Spear. My spear can sense the existence of Murong Yu. Just as Feng Sangxiong's voice fell, the Phoenix Plume Nether Spear trembled slightly. Then, it adjusted its direction in the void and finally pointed in a direction. Feng Sangxiong's face revealed a confident look. He took a step forward and quickly rushed over. Feng Yongji and the others naturally wouldn't let Feng Sangxiong walk around here alone. One by one, they chased after him. Murong Yu is inside. Arriving in front of a house, Feng Sangxiong said with a confident face. Hee, I want to see if Murong Yu is really inside. Song Tian smiled sinisterly. He immediately took action and directly sealed that house. In the end, He even punched out fiercely. With a boom, that house broke apart, revealing a furious expression, primal chaos ancestor. Except for this furious primal chaos ancestor, there was no one else in the house. And this primal chaos ancestor was the person possessed by Murong-yu, Alliance Master. Originally, this primal chaos ancestor was incomparably furious. However, when he saw that it was Feng Yongji and the others, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He quickly walked over and saluted. Buzz, the phoenix plume nether spear in Feng Sangqiong's hand trembled fiercely, and the tip of the spear pointed directly at this primal chaos ancestor. He is Murong-yu, Feng Sangqiong roared. He stretched out his big hand and directly grabbed at that primal chaos ancestor. How dare you? Feng Yongji roared and made the first move, and the others locked onto Feng Sangqiong, each of them revealing their killing intent. Seeing this, Feng Sangqiong smiled embarrassedly and took a step back. He handed this primal chaos ancestor to Feng Yongji and the others. And at this time, this primal chaos ancestor had already wet his pants. Chapter 1697. While this primal chaos ancestor, Saint was scared out of his wits, Feng Yongji and the others had completely shrouded him with their powerful divine senses. This primal chaos ancestor, Saint, was immediately dumbfounded. He was so loyal to the great alliance of the human race that he would do his best until he died. What were the Alliance Master and the other higher-ups doing today? Swish! While this primal chaos ancestor, Saint, was still in shock, Feng Yongji had already reached out his hand and grabbed him. This primal chaos ancestor, Saint, was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Feng Sangqiong, are you sure he's Murong-yu? After restraining that primal chaos ancestor, Saint, Feng Yongji looked at Feng Sangqiong and confirmed with him again. Feng Sangqiong nodded. He couldn't be wrong, because the spearhead of the phoenix plume nether spear was constantly trembling at that primal chaos ancestor, Saint. It was clearly telling Feng Sangqiong that the primal chaos ancestor, Saint, was Murong-yu. Could the phoenix plume nether spear make a mistake? If someone asked Feng Sangqiong this question, they would definitely be sent flying by Feng Sangqiong's slap. The Phoenix Clan's strongest supreme weapon has never made a mistake. You ask if it can make a mistake? Feng Yongji's eyes flashed with surprise. At the same time, the experts of the Human Race Alliance had already locked onto Feng Sangqiong with their divine senses. Feng Sangqiong had already raised all his strength to the limit and was ready to attack. However, when he found that everyone's divine senses were locked onto him, he couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. His face turned gloomy. What do you mean? Nothing, just a precaution, Shui Juanhao said faintly. Feng Sangqiong was furious. Although he already had the idea of snatching Murong-yu from their hands, could he tell them? No. So, he said angrily, am I that kind of person? I'm not that kind of person at all. I just need to kill Murong-yu personally. As he spoke, he had already walked towards the primal chaos ancestor Saint who was controlled by Feng Yongji. Killing Murong-yu is fine. Kill him from a distance, Feng Yongji said faintly. Feng Sangqiong was very unhappy, but he also knew that Feng Yongji and the others were guarding against him. So, he stopped and prepared to kill that primal chaos ancestor Saint. The primal chaos ancestor sage finally reacted. Alliance Master and the others actually mistook him for Murong-yu, and he wanted to kill him? Wasn't this a huge mistake? He wanted to speak. He wanted to use his divine will to transmit his voice. Unfortunately, all of his abilities had been sealed. He couldn't express his opinion at all. Hold on. Just as Feng Sangqiong was about to kill the primal chaos ancestor Saint, a sinister voice sounded. Feng Sangqiong turned his head and looked at Song Tian, who spoke with a displeased expression. Old fellow, what do you want? Song Tian smiled sinisterly and took a step forward. I don't want to do anything. I just want to verify his identity. I seem to have seen this guy before. He should be a disciple of our Human Race Alliance. The primal chaos ancestor sage burst into tears. Old ancestor Song Tian, actually had an impression of him. Furthermore, he was able to identify him. He's clearly Murongyu. He changed into this appearance after killing that person. Song Tian actually questioned his judgment, which made him very unhappy. If this wasn't the headquarters of a human race alliance, he would have already killed him with a punch. He actually dared to chirp in front of the old ancestor. He really didn't know life from death. Hearing Feng Sanqiong's words, the controlled primal chaos ancestor sage couldn't help but look at Feng Sanqiong angrily. He gritted his teeth and wished he could slap Feng Sanqiong to death. Feng Sanqiong laughed sinisterly. Murongyu, I'll see how you die. Anyway, Feng Sanqiong had already determined that this primal chaos ancestor sage was Murongyu. He believed in the phoenix plume nether spear. Therefore, he didn't stop Song Tian from verifying his identity. He just looked at Song Tian with a mocking expression. Yes, verify his identity first. Shui Juanhao and the others blushed with shame. Originally, they didn't believe Feng Sanqiong, but unknowingly, they believed him. After hearing Song Tian's words, their divine will rushed into the primal chaos ancestor sage's soul and began to check his memories, including Feng Yongji. Of course, they knew that Murongyu's soul attack was very sharp. Because of that, they were all very careful. It could even be said that they were extremely cautious. Idiot! When the controlled primal chaos ancestor sage saw that Feng Yongji and the others wanted to check his memories, he immediately burst into tears. Checking his memories was to prove that he was innocent and that they had mistaken him. Therefore, he didn't stop them, but cooperatively opened his memories to Feng Yongji and the others. Once Feng Yongji and the others saw his memories, they would know that he was wronged. Therefore, this primal chaos ancestor sage was very proud, but he was also very resentful towards Feng Sanqiong. Therefore, he cursed Feng Sanqiong with his mouth. Feng Sanqiong just looked at that primal chaos ancestor sage and smiled indifferently. Because Murongyu was about to die, why should he be so calculative with him? Because that primal chaos ancestor sage opened his memories, Feng Yongji and the others didn't have to spend any effort to check his memories. There was no element of forgery. Even his childhood memories were there. In particular, what made Feng Yongji and the others sure that this person's memories weren't fake was that this person had participated in many operations of the Human Race Alliance. Some operations were even top secret. Feng Sanqiong, are you playing with our Human Race Alliance? After confirming that this person wasn't Murongyu, Feng Yongji's face turned gloomy. He turned to look at Feng Sanqiong with a cold expression. Song Tian and the others also looked at Feng Sanqiong angrily. Each and every one of them was ready to take action against Feng Sanqiong. Feng Sanqiong's face also turned gloomy in an instant. He wouldn't believe that this Murongyu was fake. Then, there was only one reason why these people unanimously believed that this Murongyu was fake. That was, Feng Yongji and the others wanted to monopolize Murongyu and didn't want to give Feng Sanqiong the benefits he deserved. Therefore, Feng Sanqiong sneered. This is the face of your Human Race Alliance? If you don't want to share my benefits, just say it directly. At most, I don't want it. Is there need to be so shameless? Feng Sanqiong, what are you talking about? Pay attention to your words. Feng Yongji was furious. It was fine that they were deceived by Feng Sanqiong, but now Feng Sanqiong was insulting their intelligence? How could he not be angry? Speak human language to people and speak ghost language to ghosts. Let me see his memory. Feng Sanqiong took a step forward, and an incomparably huge divine sense poured into the mind of that primal chaos ancestor saint. That primal chaos ancestor saint looked at Feng Sanqiong with disdain and let him check his memory. How is it possible? He is definitely Murongyu. I can't be wrong. His memory must be fake. After a while, Feng Sanqiong said with incomparable excitement. Feng Yongji and the others had already stepped forward and surrounded Feng Sanqiong. Even the supreme weapons were taken out by him and locked onto Feng Sanqiong. You must have done something. That's right, you must have done something. Feng Sanqiong shouted excitedly. Then, he sneered. You don't want to give me benefits and still want to kill me? Feng Sanqiong, Why did you sneak into our human race alliance? Feng Yongji's face was gloomy and murderous. He had already determined that Feng Sangxiong had come in to cause trouble. Song Tian and the others were also the same. Each of them looked at Mu Rongyu with murderous intent. They were only waiting for Feng Yongji's order, and they would erupt with their strongest attack. However, they also had some concerns in their hearts. If they were to fight here, they were afraid that the entire Tiangang Mountain would be razed to the ground. Countless disciples of the Human Race Alliance would also be killed by the aftermath of their power. A bunch of idiots. Could it be that the long spear can sense me? When both sides were about to fight, Mu Rongyu and the Hichu Luoshu sneered again and again. Where was Mu Rongyu? In fact, the Phoenix Plume Nether Spear's sense was correct. However, that primal chaos ancestor saint was not Mu Rongyu. The real Mu Rongyu had always been in the Hichu Luoshu. And the Hichu Luoshu was in the body of that primal chaos ancestor saint. Yes, it was in the body. Long before Feng Sangxiong cooperated with the Human Race Alliance, Mu Rongyu had already thought of this problem. Of course, he only had this idea. It was better to nip the problem in the bud. After all, Feng Sangxiong could always track him. This made Mu Rongyu have to be careful everywhere. However, what Mu Rongyu did not expect was that his careful thing actually had an effect. Mu Rongyu was hiding in the body of this primal chaos ancestor saint. That primal chaos ancestor saint did not know at all, nor did he sense anything. Therefore, no matter how they searched the memories, it was useless. Fight! Fight! It's best if we perish together. Mu Rongyu looked outside carefully, but his heart was constantly shouting. However, what made him depressed was Feng Yongji waved his hand and ordered that primal chaos ancestor saint to retreat. That primal chaos ancestor saint had been cleared of injustice. How would he dare to stay? And he did not dare to stay in the first place. Therefore, he ran away eagerly. This made Mu Rongyu very helpless. Originally, he wanted to see if Feng Sangxiong and the others would attack or not, but now he could not see it. As for using his divine sense, don't joke around. If he dared to use his divine sense, he would definitely be courting death. Therefore, he followed that primal chaos ancestor saint and left gloomily. Time continued to pass, but Mu Rongyu also did not find any traces of a great battle. Soon, half a day had passed, and Mu Rongyu did not wait for a great battle. Presumably, they had nothing to talk about. I wonder what other schemes those bastards have. Who is K'er and the others? Mu Rongyu pondered in his heart. He was very depressed and worried. On this day, a 9th-rank Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint summoned the Primal Chaos Ancestor Saint that Mu Rongyu was hiding in and ordered him to leave Big Dipper Mountain immediately to do something. After hearing this matter, Mu Rongyu and Hichu Luoshu immediately flew into a rage. Terrifying killing intent erupted from his body, filling the entire Hichu Luoshu and even dissipating out of Hichu Luoshu. Chapter 1698. What's going on? The Rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage stared coldly at the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage that Mu Rongyu was hiding in. Just a moment ago, he actually sensed an extremely sharp killing intent from the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage. And when this murderous intent appeared, it was precisely when he revealed his plan. He could not help but suspect that this person was related to Mu Rongyu. The Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage that Mu Rongyu was hiding and was also shocked. This was because he also sensed the killing intent from his body, but it did not come from him. That killing intent did not come from me. The Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage hurriedly explained. Not long ago, he was mistaken for Mu Rongyu. Now that he revealed killing intent, didn't this mean that he was Mu Rongyu? Therefore, he immediately explained. The killing intent came from you. The Rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage stared the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage in disbelief. His immense spirit sense had already enveloped the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage. If the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage acted strangely, he would definitely kill him in a single strike. Fortunately, The killing intent had already disappeared. It was only for an instant, which made the rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage and the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage think that they were hallucinating. Sir, that, if Moronyu really did not appear, would we really kill one of his wives and children a day? The Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage looked at the rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage and asked curiously. The rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage glanced at the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage indifferently before saying softly, "This is Song Tion's plan. With Song Tion's character, do you think we wouldn't dare to kill him?" Song Tion's plan? Hee, if Moronyu doesn't come, his wife and children and even Shengzhen's disciples will all die. The Primal Chaos Ancestor Sage was shocked and continued to say, "That's right, this was Song Tion's plan. Release the news to the entire sacred world that Moronyu would arrive within a certain time limit. Otherwise, if he exceeded the time limit, he would kill one person a day. If Moronyu did not come, then he would kill Kurlan and the others." It was also because he heard Song Tion's sinister plan that Moronyu revealed a monstrous killing intent and anger. He never thought that Song Tion, or even the entire Human Race Alliance, would do such a shameless thing. Although he didn't know much about Song Tion before, he didn't even know who Song Tion was. However, from the conversation between the two Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred, Moronyu knew that Song Tion was definitely the kind of person who would do what he said. However, Moronyu wasn't willing to throw his life away like this. It wasn't that he didn't want Kurlan and the others, but even if he came, Song Tion and the others might not let Kurlan and the others go. Perhaps they would all be killed. However, it was impossible for him to not come and save her. What Moronyu didn't know was that his entry into the Big Dipper Mountain had thoroughly angered the Human Race Alliance. Because they couldn't find any traces of him, Feng Yongji and the others were extremely furious and felt humiliated. Therefore, when Song Tion proposed that shameless plan again, Feng Yongji and the others actually agreed. Therefore, this plan was implemented. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Morongyu's mind swept through all kinds of ideas, but none of them were practical. First, I'll help Xianhua unify the evil demon tribe, then lead the evil demon tribe's powerhouses to kill their way over. When that time comes, I'll be able to put pressure on the Human Race Alliance with my strength. Moronyu pondered as many ideas flashed through his mind. His eyes were filled with killing intent. You may leave. Quickly spread the news. Remember, Moronyu must appear in Big Dipper City within half a year. Otherwise, he'll kill one person every day. The rank 9 Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred wasn't worried about whether this Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred was related to Moronyu or not. In any case, this news had to be spread. If this Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred was related to Moronyu, then Moronyu would know how powerful he was. Therefore, the Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred quickly left Big Dipper Mountain. Apart from him, many other people left one after another and began to carry out this matter in the entire Holy World. After all, the Holy World was just too big. Moreover, they only had half a year's time. They had to let Moronyu know about this within 3 months. Otherwise, it wouldn't be what they wanted. After all, they wanted to obtain Moronyu's physical body and treasures, not kill him. Of course, if Moronyu didn't come, they would still kill him to establish their dominance. After the Primal Chaos Ancestral Sacred left Big Dipper Mountain, Moronyu left his physical body without anyone noticing. Then, he activated Hichu Luoshu's teleportation ability and appeared directly beside Xianhua from the demon race. At this moment, Xianhua and the others were having a meeting in a large hall. Apart from Ning Haoren and the others, there were dozens of experts on the saint rankings in the hall. These were the experts that Xianhua had subdued. However, everyone's brows were slightly furrowed. They seemed to have encountered a problem. How lively! Moronyu appeared directly beside Xianhua and said at the same time. But his sudden appearance gave Xianhua and the rest a huge shock. However, when they saw that it was Moronyu, Xianhua and the others heaved a sigh of relief. As for the experts on the saint rankings that Xianhua had subdued later on, they didn't recognize Murong-yu. One by one, they stepped forward and looked at Murong-yu with solemn expressions. Their incomparably powerful divine senses had already enveloped Murong-yu. Don't be impatient. He's one of us. He's my brother. Xianhua immediately stopped them from oppressing Murong-yu. In fact, he wasn't worried about Murong-yu. He was only worried about his subordinates. If they angered Murong-yu, although Murong-yu wouldn't kill them, he would still make them suffer a little. Murong-yu, you're here? It just so happens that we encountered some problems that we need you to solve. Xianhua immediately stood up and looked at Murong-yu with a smile on his face. Murong-yu glanced at everyone in the hall and nodded slightly. Not bad. I guess now only the Qi family and the Bai family haven't been subdued. Xianhua smiled embarrassedly, but nodded in acknowledgement. These two families were too powerful, especially the Qi family. They had a terrifying existence on the Saint rankings holding down the fort. Even the Meng family wasn't weak. They had a super existence on the Saint rankings. If Xianhua and the others besieged them, it wouldn't be a problem. However, the experts ranked so high on the Saint rankings were too powerful. Xianhua and the others didn't have the confidence to subdue those people. Once they escaped, with their strength, once they took revenge on Xianhua and the others, none of them would be spared. However, those two families must be subdued. Experts of that level must be left behind. Otherwise, without a super expert, the fiend race would be reduced to a second-class family in the sacred race. Then what are we waiting for? Let's subdue them directly. Murong-yu was pressed for time. After listening to Xianhua's narration, he immediately decided to take action. Master, the Meng family and the Qi family are very strong. They have terrifying existences on the Saint rankings. It's not that I don't believe your friend, but I still feel that this matter needs to be discussed properly. Just after Murong-yu made the decision, a middle-aged man took a step forward, bowed to Xianhua, and then said in a low voice, "It's over." Hearing this person's words, this word suddenly appeared in Xianhua's heart. Sure enough, Murong-yu's face became gloomy. But soon, a smile appeared on his face. He looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Who are you?" Seeing Murong-yu's appearance, Xianhua didn't speak. He understood Murong-yu's character. He wouldn't do anything too outrageous. Although these people had submitted to him, they were still arrogant and unruly. It was time to knock some sense into them. Ning Haoran, the expert's old ancestor, Meng Man, and others who had seen Murong-yu's strength just smiled coldly. Then, they all looked at the middle-aged man with a strange expression. Meng Man sneered, "You overestimate yourself." The middle-aged man first glared fiercely at Meng Man, then raised his head and puffed out his chest and said proudly, "I am the Shi family's old ancestor, Shi Patian, the 150th existence on the Saint rankings." Murong-yu nodded. 150th on the Saint rankings, a very powerful existence. You can run rampant in the holy world. Hearing Murong-yu's words, Shi Patian's face showed a smile. He secretly praised Murong-yu in his heart for being tactful. However, he was soon dumbfounded and even furious. You're only 150th on the Saint rankings. What do you have to be arrogant about? In my eyes, you're not even fart. Murong-yu's expression instantly turned cold as he said disdainfully. Shi Patian was furious. He took a step forward and reached out his big hand to grab Murong-yu. He felt that Murong-yu was too arrogant. Such an arrogant young man needed to be taught a lesson. However, the moment he made his move, an incomparably vast aura erupted from Murong-yu's body. The incomparably terrifying pressure also carried a strong, killing intent. Boom! Shi Patian bore the brunt of it. At this moment, he was like an ancient sacred mountain that was fiercely pressed down. Caught off guard, his entire body was pressed down to the ground and fell to the ground. However, he was a terrifying existence on the Saint rankings, so he quickly reacted. Therefore, he erupted with his strongest attack to resist Murong-yu's pressure. However, it was useless. The more he resisted, the stronger Murong-yu's pressure. In the end, under the horrified gazes of the crowd, Shi Patian was suppressed to the ground in an ugly posture, like a dog eating feces. At the same time, while suppressing them, Murong Yu's enormous pressure also enveloped the entire hall. The other experts on the Saint rankings who were suppressed had a drastic change in expression, and all of them looked at Murong Yu with fear. Of course, Ming Man, Ning Haoran, and the others were not suppressed. Murong Yu mainly suppressed the experts on the Saint rankings that Xian Hua had subdued later. These people had to be taught a good lesson. Chapter 1699. All right, Murong Yu, they're all my subordinates. That's enough. Xian Hua finally spoke while Shi Patian and the others were shocked. However, his words were quite thought-provoking. What did he mean by that? Shi Patian and the others had many thoughts. How could they not know what Xian Hua meant by that? Looking at Meng Man and the others who were not affected, Shi Patian and the others immediately reacted. They had already made Xian Hua feel dissatisfied, although Xian Hua had not said it. This time, he was using Murong Yu's strength to teach them a lesson. Murong Yu glanced at them indifferently, and then withdrew his terrifying pressure. Then he looked at Xian Hua and said, Xian Hua, you're still not tough enough. These people are all your subordinates. They must obey your orders. Otherwise, what's the use of having them? If it were me, I would just kill them. Xian Hua shook his head speechlessly. Shi Patian and the others had already submitted to him. Shi Patian and the others had already submitted to him, but their souls were not controlled by him. It was not that Xian Hua did not want to, but his soul was ordinary. Being able to control an expert on the Saint ranking was already his limit. Shi Patian and the others were all stronger than him. Therefore, Xian Hua could not control their souls at all. Otherwise, he would easily be devoured. Boom! When Xian Hua shook his head, a pressure even more terrifying than before erupted from his body. Shi Patian and the others, except for Meng Man, Ning Haoran and the others, were directly suppressed to the ground and could not move. Arrogant and unruly. Do you think you're indispensable? Let me tell you today, you're just ants. I can kill you with a finger. Murong Yu's cold voice filled the entire hall with terrifying killing intent. As he spoke, he reached out his hand and grabbed at Shi Patian and the others. Shi Patian and the others suddenly held their heads and screamed in pain. Xian Hua and Meng Man were even more shocked to see a trace of their souls being slowly pulled out of their heads. It was obvious that it was Murong Yu who pulled out their souls. There were dozens of experts on the Saint ranking present, and their souls were pulled out by Murong Yu with one hand. What level had Murong Yu's strength reached? In fact, with Murong Yu's original strength, it was impossible for him to do so. At this moment, he had already used the Xianyuan sword. Borrowing the power of the Xianyuan sword, he could do it. He wanted to completely intimidate these people. As Shi Patian and the others screamed in terror, Murong Yu took control of their souls. Then, Murong Yu quickly condensed their soul candles and gave them to Xian Hua. Xian Hua, if these people don't listen to me, kill them. With or without them, it doesn't make a difference. Xian Hua took the soul beads from Shi Patian and the others, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Although these people had their masters were their masters, not listening to him didn't listen to him. But his strength was not enough, and Xian Hua could not do anything to him. But now, things were different. From today onwards, I don't want any of you or your factions to have any disloyalty. Once discovered, kill without mercy. Of course, if you perform well, I'll return your freedom in the future. Xian Hua glanced at Murong Yu. After all, their souls were controlled by Murong Yu. If they wanted to regain their freedom, they needed Murong Yu to control them. Murong Yu naturally wouldn't refute Xian Hua's words. He nodded cooperatively. Now, who else has a question? Murong Yu stood beside Xian Hua and didn't say anything else. He handed it over to Xian Hua. After all, Xian Hua wanted to unify the fiend race. Murong Yu was only helping him. If Murong Yu continued to be in charge, the fiends below would probably resist. After all, would it be Xian Hua or Murong Yu who would unify the fiend race? Xian Hua was a fiend, but Murong Yu was an outsider. No race wanted to be ruled by an outsider. unless there was no other choice. Everyone was silent. Who dared to oppose Xianhua now? Their lives were now under Xianhua's control. Even if Xianhua didn't kill them, Murongyu, this killing god, probably wouldn't let them go. Seeing that everyone was silent, Xianhua nodded with a smile and said, "Then let's set off now and directly suppress the Meng and Qi ancestors." Hearing Xianhua's words, Meng Man and the others were overjoyed. Murongyu's strength was very strong. It was enough to suppress the two ancestors of the Meng and Qi families. And now, it seemed that he was even stronger. This way, they were even more confident. And as long as they controlled the two ancestors of the Meng and Qi families, they could unify the Fiend race. This was the first time the Fiend race was unified after countless years of division. And these people would be recorded in the Fiend race's history books and leave their names in history. Therefore, they were very excited. And after unifying the Fiend race, they would have various benefits. The most direct was the use of various resources. Therefore, the group left the temporary encampment and flew directly towards the Meng family under Meng Man's lead. Nothing happened along the way, and they arrived at Meng City very quickly. Meng City was where the Meng family was located. Meng Man was one of the ancestors of the Meng family. Therefore, when they saw Meng Man and dozens of people rushing over, no one in the Meng family dared to stop them. "Ancestor Meng Tian, Meng Man requests to see you." Meng Man shouted when they arrived at the place where Ancestor Meng Tian was in seclusion. "Meng Tian, what are you doing? Didn't you go to ambush Murongyu? Why did you come back?" Ancestor Meng Tian is in seclusion to break through. Once he breaks through, his strength will increase tremendously again. An expert on the holy roll flew over and said unhappily, "Breaking through?" Meng Man was stunned. Then, he turned to look at Murongyu. Meanwhile, Murongyu only nodded slightly and gestured to Meng Man not to do anything rash. After all, Meng Tian's breakthrough was a good thing. He was originally ranked 70th on the holy roll. Even if he only broke through to 69th this time, it would still be extremely beneficial. After all, there were too few top experts in the evil demon race. They were far inferior to the human race. "Meng Tian, why aren't you leaving with your people?" The expert on the holy roll from the Meng family roared angrily. Meng Man's face darkened. Then he shouted, "Meng Hai, you're courting death? Why do you have to order me around?" Meng Hai, who was the expert on the holy roll, scoffed. Trying to disturb ancestors' seclusion means that you're trying to sabotage ancestors' breakthrough. Therefore, you're a traitor of the Meng family. Meng Man, if you don't leave now, I'll take you down as a traitor immediately. Meng Man was so infuriated by Meng Hai that he started laughing. This guy's strength was similar to his. If he could not even take him down, how could he take down Murongyu and the rest? Wasn't he courting death? What are you blabbering on about? You're so annoying. Get out of my way. Meng Man was still laughing out of anger. Meanwhile, Shi Patian, who had suffered greatly in the hands of Murongyu, cursed and reached out his hand to grab Meng Man. "How dare you?" Meng Hai roared and took a step forward. He threw a punch at Shi Patian. In his opinion, Shi Patian was just an ordinary rank 9 chaotic ancestor sage. How could he be a match for him? However, he was soon dumbfounded. Shi Patian's huge hand grabbed at him. Before his fist could even get close, it was shattered by the power of Shi Patian's claw. Meanwhile, Shi Patian's huge hand had already grabbed him before he could react. When he grabbed Meng Man, Shi Patian even sealed his power. Then, he threw him at Xianhua's feet. "Master, this person is too noisy. I have already taken him down." Shi Patian came in front of Xianhua and said to him with a fawning expression. Everyone was shocked to see Shi Patian's change in attitude. However, they quickly reacted. Before this, Shi Patian was the first thorn in Xianhua's side. If Xianhua wanted to kill a chicken to warn the monkey, he would definitely kill this chicken, although this was a little embarrassing and would be called shameless. However, could that be compared to his own life? Therefore, Shi Patian began to curry favor with Xianhua. This shameless old thing. The others reacted and cursed Shi Patian's shamelessness in their hearts. Especially those thorns, They were even more depressed that Shurpatian had snatched the credit away. However, at this time, the other experts on the saint ranking of the Meng family also rushed over. However, before they could react, Xianhua's dozens of experts on the saint ranking swarmed them and knocked them to the ground with a few punches and kicks. In the end, they were dragged over and thrown at Xianhua's feet. Meng Man, what do you mean? Meng Hai and the others were stunned. In the end, they focused their firepower on Meng Man and shouted angrily. Meng Man chuckled. You idiots. Master is about to unify the Fiend clan. When are you going to submit? Meng Hai and the others were stunned. Then they reacted. Meng Man, you actually betrayed the Meng family. Patriarch Meng Tian will definitely not let you off. Meng Man laughed sinisterly. He took 2 steps forward and rushed in front of Meng Man. Then he slapped him fiercely. Idiot, Patriarch Meng Tian will also submit to Master. Because Master is the true master of the Fiend clan, someone recognized by the Fiend's heart. Meng Hai was stunned, and so were the other experts on the saint ranking of the Meng family. Take control of their souls, Xianhua ordered. Then a few experts on the saint ranking walked over and controlled the souls of Meng Hai and the others. Xianhua had no choice but to do this because he could not control the souls of so many experts on the saint ranking. Anyway, the souls of the experts on the saint ranking who controlled Meng Hai and the others were already controlled by Murongyu. This was equivalent to being controlled by Xianhua. Ha! I've finally broken through. My strength has improved greatly. This time, our Meng family will strive to be the #1 family in the Fiend clan. At this moment, a loud laugh came from underground. The strongest person in the Meng family, Patriarch Meng Tian, had come out of seclusion, and his strength seemed to have increased greatly. Chapter 1700. Swoosh! A black figure appeared in front of Murongyu and the rest. It was a tall and burly man. However, when he saw Murongyu and the other experts on the saint rankings, he couldn't help but jump in fright. Most of them were not from the Meng family. Of course, the Meng family had a few sages too. Most of the others were experts on the saint rankings from other clans. Meng Man, what's going on? Meng Tian looked at Meng Man. Although Meng Tian was confused about Murongyu and the rest of the sages, he was not afraid of them. Based on his powerful abilities, Meng Tian could even guarantee that even if Xianhua and the rest attacked him together, they would not be able to defeat him. Meng Tian might even kill all of them. That was his ability. As the saying went, the skilled are bold. However, didn't Meng Man go to ambush Murongyu? Did he succeed? Therefore, he asked. Meng Man stepped forward and looked at Meng Tian with a complicated expression. Then he said slowly, Patriarch, I have already submitted to Lord Xianhua, who has the heart of evil. My lord will definitely be the one who will unify the evil demon race. We have all submitted to him. Patriarch Meng Tian, you should submit to him too. What? Meng Tian was enraged after hearing Meng Man's words. However, his gaze soon landed on Xianhua. Then, the anger in his heart disappeared and was replaced by a smile. You are Xianhua, the one who has the heart of evil? Xianhua stepped forward fearlessly. Meng Tian, submit to me. Ha ha! Meng Tian laughed out loud. After a long while, he looked at Xianhua with a smile and glanced at Shurpatian and the rest. Very good. All of you are here. Xianhua, even though you have been recognized by the heart of evil, your abilities might surpass mine in time. However, you made a mistake by coming to the Meng family so early. Since that's the case, I shall accept it. As he spoke, Meng Tian reached out his hand and grabbed Xianhua. He actually wanted to capture Xianhua. Attack! Shurpatian roared and took the initiative to attack, throwing a punch at Meng Man. Meanwhile, Ning Haoran and the rest attacked too. In an instant, dozens of experts on the sages attacked at the same time. A terrifying aura engulfed the entire Meng family and caused countless disciple souls. Very good. Let's fight in the sky. Meng Tian was the patriarch of the Meng clan after all. He didn't want the entire Meng clan to be destroyed by the aftermath of their battle. Thus, he took the lead and soared into the sky, flying toward the top of the sky. Sherpatian and the others roared angrily and quickly chased after them. While they were the Meng Tian, they were the Meng Tian, Meng. Of the Meng when they flew up into the sky, they saw Sherpatian and the others surrounding Meng Tian and attacking him ferociously. After watching for a while, Xianhua suddenly asked Morongyu, "Morongyu, do you think my men have a chance of winning?" Morongyu shook his head and said, "Although some of your men are in the top 1,000 on the Sage's ranking and Ninghauren is ranked 100th on the Sage's ranking. However, they are not on the same level as Meng Tian. The higher the ranking on the Sage's ranking, the greater the difference between each ranking. Meng Tian was originally ranked 70th on the Sage's ranking. Now that he had a breakthrough in his skills, he was confident that he could become the #1 family in the Demon Clan. His skills are not weak, and he could at least fight with the Qi family's patriarch." Meng Tian frowned. "The Qi family's patriarch is ranked 30th on the Sage's ranking. Does Meng Tian have such skills?" Morongyu shook his head. The experts on the Sage's ranking were not on the same level. He could not tell what level Meng Tian had reached. Moreover, he could not see the ranking on the Sage's ranking. Bang! 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 In the beginning, Meng Tian might not have familiarized himself with his new power and was on par with Sherpatian and the rest. However, Meng Tian quickly familiarized himself with his new power. Therefore, he became more and more powerful and gained the upper hand in no time. In the end, he unleashed his prowess and sent Xianhua's subordinates flying with every punch. Meng Tian did not kill those people, but they did not have it easy either. They were all severely injured and no longer had the strength to continue fighting. In the end, only Sherpatian, Ninghauren, and the other most powerful experts on the Sage's ranking were left. However, the dozens of people earlier were not Meng Tian's match, let alone them. Sherpatian, Ninghauren, and the rest were constantly pushed back under the watch of Meng Tian. "Ha ha! All of you are trash. You want to kill me with such skills? You are overestimating yourselves." Meng Tian laughed out loud and looked extremely proud. After laughing, he turned around and looked at Xianhua, who was far away. As for Morongyu, who was only a rank 2 chaotic ancestor sage, he ignored him. Although Xianhua's expression was ugly when he saw Meng Tian walking towards him, he was not fearful. If it was before, he would have turned around and fled. However, with a powerful expert like Morongyu by his side, did he have to flee? "The heart of evil demon is mine from now on." Meng Tian laughed out loud and reached out his hand to grab Xianhua. Xianhua's face turned pale, and he turned to look at Morongyu. The difference in skills between him and Meng Tian was too great, and he did not have the intention to attack. It was not that he did not want to attack, but the outcome would be the same even if he did. At this moment, Morongyu finally appeared. The main character always appeared at the last moment. He took a step forward and stood in front of Xianhua as he looked at Meng Tian calmly. "Brat, get lost." Meng Tian sneered in disdain and was about to send Morongyu flying with a slap. A mere rank 2 chaotic ancestor sage dared to stop him? That was ridiculous. What made him feel even more ridiculous was the fact that Morongyu was actually attacking him. Morongyu was actually aiming a punch at him? This was simply an insult to him. Meng Tian was enraged. He increased the force in his hand, wanting to turn Morongyu into dust with a single slap. Boom! As expected, one of his hands was smashed into powder. However, it was not Morongyu's but Meng Tian's. "What's going on?" Meng Tian was stunned. How was this person so powerful? He smashed my hand with a punch? Who are you? Meng Tian's eyes flickered with vigilance as he looked at Morongyu with a grave expression. "I'll give you a choice. Surrender voluntarily, or I'll force you to surrender." Morongyu could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Meng Tian. He did not have much time left, and one day after another passed. Meng Tian was enraged. "Die!" As he roared, he attacked again. Morongyu shook his head helplessly. Why don't these people choose to surrender voluntarily? Why do they have to suffer before they surrender? Therefore, Morongyu burned his soul and activated the Xinyuan sword. Boom! The Xianyuan sword directly raised Murong Yu's skills to the top 10 on the holy roll. A terrifying aura exuded from his body and suppressed Grandmaster Meng Tian to the point that he was terrified. At the same time, Murong Yu slashed the Xianyuan sword at Meng Tian. Meng Tian was instantly shrouded by an extremely intense aura of death. He could sense that he wouldn't be able to withstand Murong Yu's sword. He would be killed by Murong Yu's attack. Therefore, Shurpatian and the rest looked on in shock. Meng Tian turned around and turned into a stream of light. He broke through the void and fled into the distance. He escaped? Shurpatian and the rest were extremely shocked. However, they were even more shocked by Murong Yu's skills. How terrifying was Murong Yu's skills that even Meng Tian had to escape. The funny thing was that they tried to suppress Murong Yu earlier on. The fact that Murong Yu did not kill them directly was already very kind. Shurpatian and the rest's backs were drenched in sweat when they recalled their idiotic behavior. However, what shocked them even more happened backstage. Murong Yu smiled faintly when he saw Meng Tian escaping without a fight. Instead of chasing after him, he slashed at Meng Tian. Pissed, a shocking sword radiance shot out from a Xianyuan sword and broke through the void. It caught up with Meng Tian at lightning speed, and then there was nothing after that. Meng Tian shrieked in pain and was slashed into pieces by the sword. Of course, Murong Yu did not kill Meng Tian, but only slashed his physical body. Otherwise, Meng Tian's soul would have been shattered. Meng Tian was scared to death. He wanted to escape in his soul form, but eventually decided not to. Instead, he materialized his physical body and looked at Murong Yu in fear. Murong Yu was too powerful. He was no match for him at all. He could not even take one blow from Murong Yu. Was there need to fight? He couldn't win in a fight, nor could he escape. Meng Tian looked at Murong Yu, who was approaching him with a terrible expression. Boom! Suddenly, just as Murong Yu was slowly walking toward Meng Tian, a gigantic fist appeared out of thin air and ruthlessly smashed towards Murong Yu. At the same time, a tall figure appeared behind Murong Yu out of thin air. An incomparably terrifying aura erupted from the figure as it violently charged towards Murong Yu. Murong Yu's expression turned cold. Without hesitation, he slashed at the figure with his sword. Uffed. The gigantic fist and the various attacks were slashed into pieces by the Xianyuan sword. Meanwhile, the Xianyuan sword did not stop at all and slashed at the attacker's body. With a poof, the powerful figure was slashed into two at the waist. If you dare to escape, I will destroy your soul. Murong Yu turned around and said coldly to the void in front of him. The soul that was about to escape suddenly stopped in the void and then quickly condensed into a physical body. Chief Family's patriarch. Shurpatian and the rest were shocked when they saw this person. The Chief Family's patriarch was the most powerful person on the holy roll of the demon clan. He was ranked 30th on the holy roll. However, he still could not withstand the power of Murong Yu's sword. Murong Yu's strength was too terrifying. Chapter 1702. The angel race, like the demon race, was one of the top races among the sacred races. However, although the angel race was slightly stronger than the demon race, they were still inferior to the phoenix race. After all, the phoenix race had an ancestor who was ranked 11th on the list. The other races didn't have anyone who surpassed him, so the other races were inferior to the phoenix race. The Yang family was one of the three great families of the angel race. Unlike the demon race, which was controlled separately by the 10 great families before the demon race was unified, the angel race was controlled by the 3 great families. They were much more cohesive than the demon race. As one of the top families of the angel race, the Yang family naturally had a top expert on the saint list. That person was Yang Hao's grandfather, the previous head of the Yang family, Yang He. Why was he the previous head of the family? This was because not long ago, Yang He suddenly disappeared after leaving the family for some matters. Even his soul jade slip had been shattered. In other words, this expert on the saint list had already died. Before Yang Hao and the others could grieve, the heads of the other two families of the angel race led their experts over. They directly threatened to divide the Yang family's property. As soon as the ancestor died, the experts of the other two families came to divide their property. This made everyone in the Yang family smell the scent of a conspiracy. The ancestor's death must have been related to the other two families. Perhaps it was the heads of the other two families who ambushed Yang He. Otherwise, some people in the Yang family still didn't know about Yang He's death. How would they know? However, although the Yang family still had a few experts on the saint list, no one had reached the level of Yang He. However, there was no one who could reach Yang He's level. They were simply no match for the other two clans. Fight with their lives? Perhaps they could kill a few experts on the saint list, but the Yang family would definitely be wiped out. And give up their property just like that? What awaited them in the end was death. Even the ancestor was killed, let alone them. The other two families would definitely not leave the Yang family alive to counterattack. Therefore, they had to eliminate the root of the problem. They only had 3 days to think about it. The current Yang family was lifeless, without any signs of life. They couldn't escape, nor could they not escape, because outside the Yang family, the experts of the other two families were constantly monitoring them. They couldn't escape. Sit and wait for death. This word described the Yang family very well. Almost everyone in the Yang family was in despair, resigned to their fate. However, only Yang Hao didn't want the Yang family to be wiped out just like that. Before this, he had also heard the news of the evil demon clan being unified by Xianhua. Without any hesitation, he sent a distressed talisman to Murong Yu and Xianhua. However, Yang Hao did not harbor much hope. After all, Murong Yu was being pressured by the Human Race Alliance. The three brothers were all equally miserable. If it was Xianhua, they might come to the rescue. Furthermore, with Xianhua's strength, saving the Yang family was more than enough. However, Xianhua was not Murong Yu. He could directly teleport over. Therefore, Yang Hao didn't have any hope at all. Whoosh! At this moment, a huge hand suddenly extended out of space and grabbed Yang Hao before he could react. Afterwards, the hand vanished once more. What's going on? Yang Hao was almost scared to death. He thought that the experts on the saint rankings from the other two clans had attacked him. However, when he saw the two people standing in front of him with smiles on their faces, Yang Hao's face also revealed a look of wild joy. These two people were none other than precisely Murong Yu and Xianhua. Why are the two of you here? In his excitement, Yang Hao actually asked a very brainless question. Murong Yu and Xianhua staggered and almost fell to the ground, while Xianhua said in annoyance, "Why are we here? Weren't you the one who called us here? Since it's like this, let's go back." Don't go back. Yang Hao smiled embarrassedly and grabbed Murong Yu and Xianhua's hands. But he was quickly shaken off by Xianhua and Murong Yu. Get lost. We're not into men. Yang Hao smiled embarrassedly and retracted his hands. Wasn't he excited? He wasn't into men either. What he liked were women. What's going on? After laughing, Murong Yu asked with a solemn expression. Yang Hao sighed and then explained everything in detail. Bastard. I'll lead the demon army to destroy those two families now. After listening, Murong Yu's face was extremely gloomy, and Xianhua was already furious. How similar was this thing to what happened to him? Xianhua's family was ruined. He didn't want his brother's family to be ruined too. Therefore, he was furious and wanted to destroy those two families. But he was stopped by Murong Yu. Don't worry, Yang Hao. Tomorrow the patriarchs of those two families will come to your Yang family, right? Are you interested in the position of the leader of the angel race? Hearing this, Xianhua and Yang Hao were both stunned. Then, Xianhua revealed a smile, while Yang Hao was stunned speechless. To be honest, when they first met Murong Yu, their realms were higher than Murong Yu's. Now, their realms were higher than Murong Yu's. After all, Yang Hao had already reached the 9th level of the Chaos Ancestor Saint, and Murong Yu is only a 2nd level Chaos Ancestor Saint. But in terms of strength, Murong Yu surpassed him by too much, and even Xianhua was much stronger than him. And Xianhua had the heart of demon. His achievements would be even greater in the future. And Yang Hao might not even be able to enter the holy rankings. After all, although Yang Hao was a genius, there was never a lack of geniuses in this world. After all, not every genius could enter the saint rankings. After all, the holy rankings only had a mere 108,000 positions. Which angel didn't want to become the leader of the angel race? But wanting was just that. Who had the ability? After all, just like the demon race, no one had been able to unify the angel race after they split up. Yang Hao also wanted to become the leader of the angel race, but he didn't have the ability. The others were also unwilling to accept him. After all, his strength was there for all to see. As long as you answer whether you want to or not. If you want, I can help you unify the angel race. If you don't want to, I'll save your Yang family. Make a decision quickly. I don't have much time, Murong Yu continued. He didn't show any impatience, but he really didn't have much time. Xianhua didn't say anything, and only patted Yang Hao's shoulder, looking at him with an encouraging gaze. After pondering for a moment, Yang Hao's expression slowly became resolute. The next day, all the experts on the holy rankings and some important core disciples of the Yang family gathered in the main hall, looking at the entrance of the hall with worried expressions. Ha ha! A burst of laughter came from afar, and then a group of more than a dozen experts quickly appeared in the hall. A young man glanced at Yang Hao and the others, and then said with a smile, "Are you ready?" He was the patriarch of the Lai family, Lai Kong. He was extremely strong, ranked 29th on the holy rankings. And standing next to him was the patriarch of another family, Lao Xinghe. He was also very strong, ranked 50th on the holy rankings. While they were talking, the two of them had already sat down on the main seats in an imposing manner. And that seat was the seat of the Yang family's ancestor, Yang He. Seeing this, everyone in the Yang family was furious, but they didn't dare to say anything. Not to mention the other experts on the saint rankings, it would be easy for these two to kill him. Lai Kong, Lao Xinghe, did you guys kill my grandfather? While everyone was furious, Yang Hao stepped forward, looking at Lao Xinghe and Lai Kong with an angry expression, and a terrifying killing intent erupted from his body. This child, Yang Hao's father, Yang Jianglu, turned pale with fright and pulled him over. At the same time, his figure flashed and blocked in front of Yang Hao, afraid that Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe would kill Yang Hao. Patriarchs, my son is still young, please don't blame him, Yang Jianglu said nervously to Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe. Seeing his father's somewhat humble appearance, Yang Hao couldn't help but feel pain in his heart, and he became even more angry and hateful towards Lao Xinghe and Lai Kong. The child is still young. The two of us won't bother about it. Have you done what I told you to do? Our time is precious. We don't have time to waste with you. A cold, killing intent flashed in Lai Kong's eyes, but he quickly concealed it. Anyway, after they got all the properties of the Yang family, everyone in the Yang family had to die. This brat was going to die anyway. Was it worth it for them to be so calculative with a dead person? Hearing this, the faces of the Yang family became even uglier. But in order to save their lives, they had already sorted it out in the past 2 days. Wait, don't you two try to annex our Yang family. Do you think I don't know your vicious thoughts? As long as we give all our properties to you, our Yang family will be wiped out. At this time, Yang Hao stepped forward again, glaring at Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe. This time, it wasn't just Yang Hao's father, Yang Jianglu, who turned pale with fright, but the rest of the Yang family also changed their expressions. Yang Hao's words, wasn't it hastening their deaths? For a moment, those people stared at Yang Hao with hatred. Noticing those people's gazes, Yang Hao was a little angry, but more than that, he felt sad. Were these people his family? Were they his clansmen? He was fighting to keep his family, but they actually hated him? A cold, killing intent flashed across Lao Xinghe's brows, and with a cold snort, an incomparably huge aura swept towards Yang Hao. With his strength, just this aura alone could kill Yang Hao thousands of times. However, although Yang Hao's strength wasn't much, didn't he still have his good brothers, Murong Yu and Xianhua? Don't make a move if you don't want to die, or I'll be the first to take your life. At this moment, a cold and murderous voice appeared out of thin air in the hall. Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe felt that they were instantly enveloped by a terrifying killing intent. Lao Xinghe even unconsciously withdrew his aura that was suppressing Xiang Yang Hao. Chapter 17:03. Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe looked at Murong Yu and Xianhua with vigilance. In the end, their gazes focused on Murong Yu's face. "Who are you?" They couldn't help but ask. Although Murong Yu was only a rank 2 chaotic ancestor sage, the aura he emitted was too terrifying. Even their souls trembled at the sight of it. They felt a terrifying aura of death in their hearts. These were all given by Murong Yu. Who were they? Yang Jianglu and the others were shocked when they saw Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe. Because Murong Yu didn't target them, they couldn't sense any of his aura. But from Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe's reactions, they seemed to be afraid of Murong Yu. Wasn't he just a rank 2 chaotic ancestor sage? Could he be a descendant or disciple of a living sovereign? Many thoughts appeared in the minds of Yang Jianglu and the others, but no one thought that Murong Yu and Xianhua were Yang Hao's brothers. Hearing Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe's question, Murong Yu smiled. Xianhua took a step forward and said indifferently, "I am Xianhua of the Fiend race. I heard that you too want to annex my brother Yang Hao's family?" Xianhua. When these two words spread out, everyone in the hall was stunned. They had heard that Xianhua had unified the Fiend race. But this Fiend race's true lord had appeared here? The Angel race and the Fiend race were natural enemies. What were they doing here? Therefore, everyone was shocked. But when Xianhua said that he was Yang Hao's brother, everyone was shocked again. Xianhua meant to help Yang Hao? For a moment, Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe's expressions changed greatly, but Yang Hao and the others were excited. Although Xianhua's strength didn't seem to be much, he was the Fiend race's true lord. Although the Fiend race was slightly inferior to the Angel race in terms of peak experts, but the Fiend race was also extremely powerful. If Xianhua stood on Yang Hao's side couldn't be underestimated. In fact, they were even more powerful than the Lai and Lao families combined. While they were shocked, Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe's eyes were still locked on Murong Yu's face. They had always suspected that Xianhua had the help of a mysterious person, and this person appeared at the same time as Xianhua. He was most likely the mysterious person who helped Xianhua unify the Fiend race. The mysterious person had even suppressed High Warrior, who was ranked 30th on the Sage rankings. He definitely had the strength to suppress Lai Kong, who was ranked 29th, and Lao Xinghe, who was ranked 50th. Immediately, the two of them looked at each other and saw a dangerous aura in each other's eyes. Thus, they unconsciously increased their strength to the maximum. Bring out your supreme weapons. Otherwise, even if you join forces, you won't be able to take a single blow from me. At this moment, Murong Yu finally spoke. His voice was calm, but it stunned a large group of people. Isn't this guy too arrogant? He actually said that Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe couldn't even take a single blow from him? Hearing Murong Yu's words, some of the Yang family's powerhouses couldn't help but feel disdain in their hearts. However, when they saw the solemn expressions of Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe, they were astonished. It seemed like Murong Yu really had the strength to do so. Friend, this is a matter of our Angel race. It's not good for you to interfere, right? Lao Xinghe admitted defeat. This left the Yang family even more astonished. However, Murong Yu's next words made everyone from the Yang family extremely happy. Murong Yu said indifferently, "Yang Hao is my brother. I'm considered half an angel. Can I interfere in this matter? Cut the crap. As long as the two of you defeat me, I'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, you will have to honor Yang Hao as the leader of the Angel race." Friend, you are too arrogant. Do you really think that the two of us aren't your match? Lai Kong was enraged. How could he not be angry when his dignity as a powerhouse had been trampled on? Murong Yu glanced at the two of them indifferently. "I'll give you a fair chance now. Follow me to the sky." As he spoke, Murong Yu took a step forward and disappeared from the main hall. By the time he finished his last word, he had already appeared in the sky. Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe looked at each other, and quickly rushed out. Immediately, the powerhouses of Xianhua, Yang family, Lai family, and Lao family all rushed into the sky. In the sky, Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe both took out their supreme weapons and looked at Murongyu with a solemn expression. At this time, Murongyu had also taken out the Xianyuan sword and held it in his hand. With Murongyu's strength, if he used soul attacks, the two of them were definitely not his match. After all, the strongest among them, Lai Kong, was only 29th on the saint rankings. However, Murongyu couldn't kill the two of them quickly. Therefore, he had to use the power of the Xianyuan sword to quickly subdue the two of them. At the same time, it was also a warning to the other powerhouses on the saint rankings. He took the opportunity to lay a good foundation for Yang Hao. Kill! Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe looked at each other and then roared at the same time. Both of them burst out with the power of their supreme weapons, smashing the void and fiercely attacking Murongyu. Murongyu's eyes flashed with a playful light, and he slashed out with the Xianyuan sword in his hand. Chi! A small sword light shot out from a Xianyuan sword, and it expanded rapidly against the wind. In just a moment, the sword light had already covered the sky and the earth. After shattering a large part of the sky, the terrifying sword light fiercely slashed at the supreme weapons of Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe. Bang! Bang! After two loud bangs, the two supreme weapons were directly blown away in front of everyone's shocked eyes. However, the sword light didn't even stop. It continued to tear the void and quickly slashed at Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe. At that moment, Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe's hearts were suddenly shrouded by an unprecedentedly terrifying aura of death. They could only see their figures retreating at the same time. However, it was too late. Uft, uft. Just as their figures swayed, the terrifying sword light had already slashed down and directly slashed on their physical bodies. After two muffled sounds, the two of their physical bodies directly exploded into two clouds of blood mist. After slashing the two of them into pieces, the terrifying sword light also entered the endless void and disappeared. So terrifying! Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe, who were in the soul state, only had this thought in their minds. Then they wanted to escape. However, Murongyu's faint voice was heard, and they didn't dare to make any moves. If you think I can't kill you, go ahead and run. Lao Xinghe and Lai Kong suddenly paused, then looked at each other and smiled bitterly. How could they escape? Just as Murongyu said, even if the two of them took out their supreme weapons, they couldn't withstand a single blow from him. How can this guy's strength be so terrifying? Is he a terrifying existence in the top 10 of the holy list? The two of them felt helpless. After recovering their physical bodies, they looked at Murongyu with a submissive look. Murongyu stepped out with the Xianyuan sword in his hand and looked at Lao Xinghe and Lai Kong with a calm expression. Surrender voluntarily, or should I forcibly control your souls? Lai Kong and Lao Xinghe were extremely helpless. If they didn't want to devour the Yang family, how could they have ended up like this? Moreover, according to Murongyu's words, they could only choose to surrender. They didn't even have the choice to die, let alone escape. One wrong step, and they would regret it for life. The two of them were unwilling, but they couldn't change the outcome. In the end, they chose to surrender voluntarily. Seeing that the two strongest ancestors of the Angel clan had surrendered to Murongyu just like that, the others were all stunned, and no one spoke for a while. At this time, Murongyu took action again and again, controlling the souls of all the powerhouses on the holy list from the Lai family and the Lao family. In the end, Murongyu condensed their soul beads and gave them to Yang Hao. Yang Hao took it, and then nodded to Murongyu with a complicated expression. Murongyu then looked at the people of the Yang family. When they met Murongyu's gaze, the people of the Yang family suddenly had a bad feeling in their hearts. Sure enough, before they could react, Murongyu's enormous pressure had already pressed down on them like a torrent. In an instant, except for Yang Hao's immediate family, everyone else was pressed to the ground. Yang Hao, we are a family. Why are you doing this? The powerhouses of the Yang family roared in anger. Of course, they knew what Murongyu wanted to do. Murongyu wanted to forcibly control their souls. Yang Jianglu also frowned and looked at Yang Hao. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Yang Hao looked at Murongyu with a complicated expression as he forcibly controlled their souls one by one. He didn't want to do this to his own people, but if he didn't control them, they wouldn't be obedient at all. Previously, they even resented Yang Hao because of a sentence he said, wishing for nothing more than to kill him. If they met powerhouses in the future, wouldn't they be the first to betray Yang Hao? After receiving the soul beads of the powerhouses of the Yang family, Yang Hao officially became the master of the Angel Clan. However, under Murongyu's suggestion, Yang Hao didn't announce it to the public. On the surface, the Angel Clan was still under the control of the three great families. After all, Murongyu didn't have enough time to give Yang Hao enough time to truly unify the Angel Clan. Moreover, Xianhua had unified the Demon Clan not long ago, and now the Angel Clan was unified by Yang Hao. Many people suspected that this matter had something to do with Murongyu. Murongyu's enemies were too many and too powerful. If others knew that Murongyu had helped them unify the Angel Clan, they would probably attack them. Murongyu, now that the Angel Clan and the Demon Clan have been unified, your matter needs to be resolved. My idea is to combine all the powerhouses of the Angel Clan and the Demon Clan to directly destroy the Human Clan Alliance and help you become the master of the Human Clan. Murongyu shook his head. Naturally, he had a plan. If the Human Clan didn't have Supreme True Martial and Supreme Unparalleled, Yang Hao's plan would undoubtedly be the best. However, he couldn't do that now. Chapter 1704. When the 9 Holy Lands attacked the 3 Seas Mystery Realm, apart from the disciples on the Saint ranking from True Martial Temple and Unparalleled Palace who were not controlled by Murongyu, the other 7 Holy Lands had at least one expert on the Saint ranking whose soul was controlled by Murongyu. They had become Murongyu's slaves and were hiding among the various forces. However, the plan to deal with Murongyu was planned by the Human Race Alliance, so these experts on the Saint ranking did not know about it. Otherwise, Murongyu would have known about it long ago, and the Human Race Alliance would not have been able to kidnap Kurlan and the others to threaten Murongyu. Tan Hongji, one of the experts on the Saint ranking from Cloud Piercing Island, had also participated in the attack on the Mountain Sea Mystery Realm. Therefore, he was also one of the experts on the Saint ranking who was controlled by Murongyu. At this moment, Tan Hongji was in seclusion on Cloud Piercing Island according to Murongyu's orders. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the room where Tan Hongji was in seclusion. Tan Hongji seemed to have known who was coming and immediately opened his eyes. He stood up and bowed respectfully to the person who had come. Tan Hongji greets the Holy Lord. Tan Hongji's Holy Lord was naturally Murongyu. That's right, the person who had come was Murongyu. He had been transported to Tan Hongji's side through Hichu Luo Shu. The reason why Murongyu had come here was not to take Tan Hongji away, but to start a counterattack. Why did he choose Cloud Piercing Island first? That was because Song Tian was the island master of Cloud Piercing Island. Song Tian was the one who had thought of using Kurlan and the others' lives to threaten Murongyu, and he had tried his best to persuade others to help him achieve this. Murongyu hated Song Tian to the core. Therefore, when he started his counterattack, the first target was Cloud Piercing Island. Tan Hongji, immediately activate Cloud Piercing Island's protective mountain array and teleportation formation. Only let them in, not out. Murongyu did not waste any time and directly ordered Tan Hongji. Tan Hongji didn't say anything unnecessary, nor did he dare to ask why. He immediately flew away. Rumble, the power of these mountain protection formations was extremely terrifying, and their power was constantly replenished. There was no need for Tan Hongji to do anything. He only needed to activate transformation. Thus, with a world-shaking boom, the Cloud Piercing Island's protective formation was fully activated. Other than the mountain-protecting Grand Array, the Cloud Piercing Island's teleportation array to the surface had also been shut down. In other words, from this moment on, the people of the cloud-piercing island would not be able to teleport away, nor would they be able to fly away. At this point, the structure of Piercing Cloud Island had to be explained. The Piercing Cloud Island was not on the sea, nor was it in the middle of a lake. Instead, it was in the sky. A spatial island made up of billions of islands was faintly discernible in the clouds. This was where the name Cloud Piercing Island came from. What's the situation? Are we under attack? Because of the formation, the countless disciples of the Cloud Piercing Island immediately panicked. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Tan Hongji, what happened? After Tan Hongji activated the mountain protection formation, he floated in the air above the cloud-piercing island and did not leave. At this time, the other saint-ranking powerhouses of the cloud-piercing island who had been alarmed flew over. They all stared at Tan Hongji with unfriendly expressions. There were actually 8 of them. In other words, the cloud-piercing island, including Tan Hongji and Song Tian, had at least 10 saint-ranking powerhouses. However, this was not the full strength of the cloud-piercing island. One had to know that the cloud-piercing island also had several saint-ranking powerhouses in the Human Race Alliance. As for whether there were any saint-ranking powerhouses training outside, Murong Yu did not know. However, the cloud-piercing island had at least a dozen saint-ranking powerhouses. Their strength could be considered very strong. Of course, this was a normal situation. Just the Phoenix clan alone had dozens of saint-ranking powerhouses, let alone the entire sacred race. As for the human race, they were a race that could directly fight against the sacred race. Although they had always been at a disadvantage, they had not been wiped out. This meant that the human race was not weak. Nothing. I just wanted to invite you to a place to play. Tan Hongji did not speak. However, Murong Yu, who was standing beside Tan Hongji, spoke up. Hearing Murong Yu's words, the 8 saint-ranking powerhouses of the cloud-piercing island finally noticed Murong Yu's existence. After all, Murong Yu was only a second-stage chaotic ancestor sage. He was not worthy of their attention. Impudent. Who gives you the right to interrupt here? Scram to the side. One of the saint-ranking powerhouses roared angrily. An incomparably powerful aura surged towards Murong Yu like a torrent. A cold light flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. Ha! Right at that moment, a loud and clear sound rang out. The expert on the saint rankings who'd berated Murong Yu was sent flying while clutching his face. At this time, a group of people had appeared around them. The one who had attacked just now was not Murong Yu. Instead, it was the strongest powerhouse whose soul had been controlled by Murong Yu. He was the 29th saint-ranking powerhouse, Lai Kong. Capture all of us. Yang Hao coldly swept his gaze over the saint-ranking powerhouses of the cloud-piercing island and roared. Thus, the saint-ranking powerhouses of the angel race made their move. In reality, there was no need for them to make a move. When they saw so many saint-ranking powerhouses, the cloud-piercing island's saint-ranking powerhouses were so scared that they pissed their pants. These cultivators on the saint rankings were taken down almost without any resistance and thrown into the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo. Then, the saint-ranking powerhouses of the angel race and the demon race began to suppress all the disciples of the cloud-piercing island. As a large race, the cloud-piercing island, one of the 10 great sacred lands of the human race, had an extremely large number of disciples. There were several 100 million of them. However, when the aura of over 100 saint-ranking powerhouses erupted and enveloped the entire cloud-piercing island, the cloud-piercing island cowered. The disciples of the cloud-piercing island were terrified. After all, the difference between the two sides was too great. So what if the cloud-piercing island had several 100 million disciples? Most of them were low-level saints. They weren't enough to be killed by a single saint-ranking powerhouse. After killing a few stubborn cloud-piercing island disciples, no one else resisted. Then, they were all sealed and thrown into the He-Tu Luo Shu. As one of the 10 great sacred lands of the human race, the cloud-piercing island's foundation is extremely deep. I can't let others take advantage of these things. If I uproot the entire cloud-piercing island and leave not even a single pill behind. I wonder if that old bastard Song Tian will be angered to death when he finds out? Morong chuckled coldly. He directly broke into the cloud-piercing island's treasury and took away everything inside. Too ruthless. It's really incomparably clean. Not to mention pills, not even a single strand of hair was left. Looking at the empty treasury, Xianhua couldn't help but smile happily. In addition, Morong also dug up the entire cloud-piercing island. Anything of value that could be found was taken away by him. The cloud-piercing island's environment isn't bad. F***CK, it's really annoying. High Warrior, raise all these mountains to the ground. Before leaving, Xianhua looked at the beautiful scenery of the cloud-piercing island with some displeasure. Destroy a human sacred land? That was exactly what High Warrior and the others liked to do. Therefore, High Warrior, Lai Kong, and company took action. In just a few breaths, the entire cloud-piercing island was razed to the ground, turning into a desert. After the cloud-piercing island were the 6 sacred lands: Rising Sky Sect, Nine Cauldrons Sect, Purple Thunder Hall, Sky Emperor Hall, Heaven Dipper Sect, and Bai Luo Palace. In a short period of time, Morong had sealed all the disciples of the 7 sacred grounds into the He Tu and Luo Tome. Furthermore, he'd seized all the treasures they wanted. Even their sacred lands were razed to the ground by Xianhua. The reason why everything went so smoothly without any accidents was because of Morong's powerful strength and the help of the angels and fiends. Of course, the most important thing was that they didn't have many experts on the saint rankings here. The most powerful ones were all in the great alliance of the human race. Furthermore, Morong had spies in the sacred lands. It was because of these various reasons that Morong was able to control the 7 sacred lands so easily. If not, Morong probably would not have been able to control a single sacred land, much less 7. Now, 7 of the 10 sacred lands were under his control. The Infernal Tao was Morong's sect, so he would definitely not control it. As for True Martial Sacred Hall and Peerless Palace, Morong did not take action for the time being because they did not have any spies. Of course, this was not the reason why Morong did not take action for the time being. The main reason was that the 2 sacred lands had Supremes. Who knew if Supremes, True Martial, and Peerless had any avatars left in the sacred lands? If they did, Morong would probably be slapped to death if he dared take action. Although the sacred lands experts were powerful, they were not enough to withstand a slap from a Supremes. Haha, I'm finally out of seclusion. Big scoundrel, I'll definitely be stronger than you this time. Just as Morong was contemplating whether or not he should kill his way into the True Martial Sacred Hall, an incomparably arrogant laughter rang out. Whoosh! The little lowly with a gigantic axe appeared beside Morong. She was still laughing arrogantly. However, when she saw Morong, Xianhua, Yang Hao, and company, her laughter came to an abrupt halt. This was because she realized that Lai Kong, High Warrior, and company were much stronger than her. As for Morong, the little lowly still felt powerless for Morong. Morong made her feel powerless, which meant that Morong was still stronger than her. Therefore, the little lowly felt depressed. However, she was more curious about why Morong had gathered so many experts around him. Why did Morong gather so many experts? Upon seeing the little lowly appear, Morong hurriedly introduced both parties. However, the little lowly was very cold towards Yang Hao and Xianhua. She walked to Morong's side and asked curiously, "Big scoundrel, what are you doing?" Morong muttered to himself for a moment. In the end, he decided to transfer the recent events into the little lowly's mind. The Human Clan Alliance is too shameless. Especially that Song Tian. Big scoundrel, I want to kill that bad guy with my own hands. None of you are to snatch him from me. Otherwise, I'll fall out with you. After digesting the memories, the little lowly said through gritted teeth as she constantly cursed Song Tian. Chapter 1705. Scoundrel, the true martial temple and the unparalleled palace will be there soon. Don't worry about them. Even if you kill them, The true martial temple and the unparalleled palace won't make a move. After cursing for a long time, the little lowly urged Murong-yu to kill the true martial temple and the unparalleled palace. Murong-yu frowned slightly. Back then, the little lowly introduced Murong-yu to the true martial temple. Could it be that the little lowly had no relationship with the true martial temple? Who told you that I have a relationship with the true martial temple? Back then, I just felt that you were suitable for the true martial temple. The little lowly rolled her eyes helplessly and said speechlessly, "There must be a supreme behind this little brat. Since she isn't the true martial temple, could she be the daughter of the unparalleled palace?" Murong-yu looked at the little lowly and pondered. The little lowly, who felt a little guilty under Murong-yu's gaze, couldn't help but glare at Murong-yu. "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a great beauty? This beauty is—" The little lowly wanted to use her incomparably long title to suppress Murong-yu, but she was interrupted by Murong-yu. The title was very speechless. Murong-yu couldn't look straight at her. "In that case, let's go kill the true martial temple and the unparalleled palace." Murong-yu laughed, but a cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes. He still remembered that Kurlan and the others were in the hands of the Alliance Master of the human race. And that Alliance Master, Feng Yongji, happened to be the Palace Master of the true martial temple. Murong-yu was a disciple of the true martial temple before, although he was only an outer disciple and couldn't go deep. However, at the very least, Murong-yu had left behind a teleportation jade strip in the true martial temple. Therefore, this time, he directly teleported to the true martial temple. Because there was no spy, Murong-yu wasn't as relaxed as before. As soon as he appeared in the true martial temple, he released all the experts on the saint ranking under him, including the experts on the demon race and the angel race. Murong-yu directly took out the Xian Yuan sword and used the Xian Yuan sword's power to infinitely increase his strength. With a loud bang, every corner of the true martial temple was enveloped by Murong-yu's aura. Bang! 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 And Xianhua, and the saint rankings experts of the martial temple had discovered the teleportation formation in martial temple's martial temple. Then they surrounded Murong-yu of the unparalleled saint experts of the saint ranking S. As they were, as long as they wanted, they couldn't let even a mosquito. Murong-yu withdrew his aura only after the saint rankings experts had taken control of the true martial sacred hall. Knows. B. This martial palace. This was also the reason why Murong-yu only acted after helping Xianhua unify the Fiend clan. If he were alone, he wouldn't be able to control the situation. No matter how powerful a person was, it was possible for there to be mistakes. Once there was a mistake and the news was leaked, it would greatly affect Murong-yu's plan. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At that moment, the saint rankings experts of the true martial temple rose into the air and charged towards Murong-yu. However, their expressions were extremely ugly. The reason for that was because even though they were experts on the saint rankings, they had still been suppressed. They knew that the person who had attacked was far stronger than them. They would be sending themselves to their deaths if they went over. But in the end, they braced themselves and went forward. They didn't want to be criticized behind their backs after death. However, before they could even approach Murong-yu, like Kong, High Warrior, and the others had already charged over and engaged in a fierce battle. They were immediately knocked to the ground. Then, they sealed all their powers and threw them to Murong-yu. Ever since the evil demon clan's patriarchs were subdued by Murong-yu, their temperaments had changed. Especially when dealing with the 9 great sacred lands. These fellows acted like hooligans, even if the saint rankings experts were far inferior to them. They would fight to take action. In the past, they wouldn't even bother to take action against saint rankings experts. Driven away by the other saint rankings experts, all the true martial temple disciples gathered. Then, all of their powers were sealed and thrown into the Hichu Luo Shu. Murong-yu, it's you? At that moment, a cry of disbelief sounded from the crowd. Then, All the true martial temple disciples focused their gazes on Murong-yu, who was above them. It was really Murong-yu. Instantly, all the true martial temple disciples had complicated expressions. However, there were also people who were beaming with joy. Back then, Murong-yu was a disciple of true martial temple. Now, not even an era had passed, and Murong-yu had already grown to such an extent, although they didn't know how strong Murong-yu was. Their monstrous patriarchs were all defeated by Murong-yu's subordinates in a few punches. To be able to subdue such powerful subordinates, Murong-yu's strength couldn't be too bad. Even the average disciple had complicated expressions on their faces, let alone the culprits who had driven Murong-yu away. Yi-jun, Wen-lin, and the others didn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. And the one who had just recognized Murong-yu was one of the three great alchemists of the outer hall. Yi-jun, hearing the exclamation, Murong-yu looked down and recognized Yi-jun. If this guy hadn't taken the initiative to speak, Murong-yu wouldn't have even remembered him. It wasn't that Murong-yu's memory had deteriorated, and Yi-jun, this kind of villain, was no longer his opponent. Although Murong-yu couldn't wait to kill this kind of villain back then, as his strength grew, his vision became even more far-sighted. Yi-jun, this kind of villain, was directly ignored by him, and the ones who had joy on their faces were those little brothers that Murong-yu had gotten acquainted with as a handyman disciple. These people had a good relationship with him back then. Later, Murong-yu rebelled against True Martial Temple and directly broke off with True Martial Temple. But these little brothers didn't leave True Martial Temple. However, they also had a difficult life in True Martial Temple. Although many people had already become Outer Hall disciples, they were severely suppressed and their strength didn't improve much at all. Although these little brothers back then could no longer help Murong-yu much. However, they were acquainted with each other back then. Murong-yu directly treated these people differently. Under everyone's envious gazes, these people were directly summoned by Murong-yu and then taken into the Hichu Luo Shu. These people changed their fates from then on and finally became Shenzhen's disciples, and were even more loyal and devoted to Murong-yu. The performance of these people caused the others to be envious, jealous, and hateful. Some people even wanted to slap themselves. Why didn't they get acquainted with Murong-yu back then? Now that Murong-yu was so powerful, even if they became his subordinates, they were 1,000,000 times stronger than being an ordinary disciple in True Martial Temple. As for Yi-jun and the other culprits who forced Murong-yu out of True Martial Temple back then, although Murong-yu didn't care about the hatred back then, he still found them. However, he still managed to find them one by one, and they were all killed by the Fiend race's saint-ranking experts. These years, True Martial Temple was known as the head of the 10 Great Holy Lands. Other than Unparalleled Palace, Murong-yu still didn't know their strength. The other Holy Lands were indeed very weak compared to True Martial Temple. Moreover, there were many formations and restrictions in the True Martial Temple that even experts on the Saint rankings couldn't destroy. If it were anyone else, even if Yu Yangjia came, they probably wouldn't be able to break these formations and restrictions in a short time. But Murong-yu was born to be unafraid of restrictions and formations. He entered and exited the formations and restrictions as if he was entering a no-man's land. Therefore, the things protected by the powerful formations and restrictions in True Martial Temple still couldn't escape Murong-yu's demonic claws and were all plundered clean. In the end, other than those places that couldn't be destroyed, the entire True Martial Temple was razed to the ground like the other Holy Lands. Of the 10 Great Holy Lands of the human race, other than the 9 Great Holy Lands of the Infernal Region, 8 of them had already been suppressed by Murong-yu and razed to the ground. Now, only Unparalleled Palace was left. After taking care of True Martial Temple, Murong-yu led many saint-ranking powerhouses to kill their way to Unparalleled Palace. Because Murong-yu and the others were very strong, and because they did it flawlessly, although it took a few days, no one knew that the 8 Great Holy Lands had been razed to the ground. Song Tian and the others were probably still waiting for Murong-yu in the Human Race Alliance. Using the same method, Muronyu also wiped out Unparalleled Palace. At this point, most of the disciples of the 9 great holy lands of the human race had been taken in by Muronyu in Hichu Luoshu. In other words, Muronyu had single-handedly wiped out the 9 great holy lands. This was a magnificent feat that no one had ever done before. If news of this spread out, it would definitely shock the entire holy world. Of course, if Song Tian and the others weren't in the Human Race Alliance and only left a few saint-ranking powerhouses to guard their forces. Moreover, Murongyu's side was too strong, and it was impossible to wipe them out. For example, Murongyu couldn't wipe out the Human Race Alliance now. This was because most of the top powerhouses of the human race were gathered there. Even if Murongyu attacked forcefully, he wouldn't be a match for them. After all, not only were there top powerhouses, there were also various supreme weapons. Once they took out their supreme weapons, no matter how strong Murongyu was, he wouldn't be a match for them. There was still a month until half a year. Before this, Murongyu was very worried. But now, he wasn't worried at all. In fact, he was happy and content. If all the disciples of the 9 great holy lands couldn't be exchanged for Kurlan and the others, then Song Tian and the others would definitely be crazy. Not only would they lose most of the people in their respective sects, but they would also lose the hearts of the people in the entire holy world. If they weren't even willing to save the people in their own sects, then there was no need to talk about others. And without the support of their own forces, they were just generals without an army. What was the use? Therefore, after knowing about Song Tian's shameless plan, Murongyu came up with this plan. An eye for an eye. Chapter 1706. Tiangang Mountain, Human Race Alliance. What's going on? Our disciples said that the protective mountain array has been activated and no one can enter. 9 Cauldron sect leader Bao Boming frowned. As he spoke, he looked at the leaders of the other sacred grounds. It's the same for our Heavenly King Palace. Heavenly King Palace's Palace Master Chai Boyan said in a muffled voice. Our Piercing Cloud Island's disciples couldn't teleport back. It seems like the array there has been shut down. Nothing should happen, right? Song Tian said darkly. If only one force couldn't enter, then the protective mountain array might have been activated by accident. If 2 forces were in trouble at the same time, it might be a coincidence. But what if 3 sacred grounds were in trouble at the same time? Was it an accident or a coincidence? In an instant, the faces of the 9 people in the hall darkened. They all had a bad feeling in their hearts. They felt that something had happened to their own strength. However, those were the 9 sacred grounds of the human race. How could something happen so easily? Furthermore, the chances of something happening at the same time was too small, unless the sacred race and the demon race attacked. But even these 2 races couldn't possibly attack the 9 sacred grounds in such a short time. Furthermore, if the sacred race and the demon race attacked, the Human Race Alliance would have received news of it beforehand. Even if it was the sacred race and the demon race, they couldn't possibly wipe out all the 9 sacred grounds at the same time. However, the more they felt that it was impossible, the more uneasy they felt. In the end, Unparalleled Palace Master Lin Guyun couldn't sit still any longer. She disappeared from the spot in a flash. When she reappeared, she was already in front of the teleportation array connecting the Human Race Alliance and Unparalleled Palace. However, her expression was extremely ugly. How is it? Is the teleportation array of Unparalleled Palace also sealed? Song Tian and the rest rushed over. When they saw Lin Guyun's ugly expression, their hearts skipped a beat. Song Tian, who also realized that the teleportation array was sealed, asked anxiously. Lin Guyun nodded with an ugly expression. This nod caused the hearts of the other great figures to sink. However, Song Tian heaved a sigh of relief. At least, Piercing Cloud Island wasn't the only one in trouble. At least something had happened to the Unparalleled Palace. One had to know that even among the 10 great holy lands, there were still differences in strength. Other than the Seamless sect, the strongest was undoubtedly the true Martial Temple, and the second was the Unparalleled Palace. Even the unparalleled palace was in trouble, let alone the cloud-piercing island. Our rising sky sex transportation formation can't be used anymore. The true Martial Sacred Hall's teleportation formation has been shut down. All of a sudden, all of the 9 sacred lands' teleportation formations were being questioned. At this point, no matter how much Feng Yongji and the others tried to comfort themselves, they knew that something had happened to their organization. Let's go back and take a look. Feng Yongji's expression was very ugly. If the true martial temple was destroyed, he would die without a doubt. He would be slapped to death by Supreme, True Martial. Lin Guiyun and the rest had the same intention. Just as they were about to leave, they were stopped by Song Tian. This might be Murong Yu's scheme. He used some underhanded means to bribe the disciples of our forces to destroy the teleportation array. Then, once we leave, he will barge into the Human Race Alliance? Song Tian paused for a moment before Chai Boyan, the Hall Master of the Heavenly King Palace, continued. Song Tian nodded. The expressions of Feng Yongji and the others darkened when they heard their conversation. After pondering for a moment, they felt that the duo's analysis made sense. However, what if something really happened to their organization? Perhaps they might be able to turn the tide if they return now. However, if they were late and their organization was destroyed, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. While they were hesitating, a primal chaos progenitor saint flew over from afar. What's going on? Song Tian was already in a bad mood. When the primal chaos progenitor saint rushed over, it immediately infuriated him. Alliance leader, Grand Elders, there's someone called Murong Yu outside who wishes to see you. He said he has something that interests the Alliance leader and Grand Elders, the primal chaos progenitor saint said, startled. However, he still revealed the purpose of his visit. Murong Yu? He has something that interests us? Song Tian and the others looked at each other. They could see the confusion in each other's eyes. In fact, they even felt uneasy. Originally, they should be happy that Murong Yu had arrived before the deadline. But now, not only were they not happy, but their hearts also sank. Could this matter really have something to do with Murong Yu? Otherwise, he wouldn't have arrived in such a timely manner. The same thought flashed through everyone's mind. Then, they all looked at Feng Yongji. Let's go out and see what Trixie's up to. Feng Yongji decided. Then, he and the others quickly appeared outside the heavy fog of Big Dipper Mountain. In the void not far from them, Murong Yu, who was dressed in black, stood in the void with his arms crossed. He sneered at Feng Yongji and the others. I'm here. Can you release my wife and children? Before Feng Yongji and the others could catch their breath, Murong Yu spoke indifferently. Song Tian chuckled. Of course. We keep our promises and are the most trustworthy. However, before we let them go, we have to verify their identities. A mocking expression appeared on Murong Yu's face. Are you going to say that you want me to seal my strength and only release us after you've verified my identity? Song Tian was stunned. He could not help but ask, how did you know? Murong Yu's mocking expression became even heavier. Who in the entire Saints world doesn't know that your human alliance is extremely shameless? Is there even a need to guess what a shameless person is thinking? How dare you? Song Tian's face instantly turned gloomy as he glared at Murong Yu with eyes that seemed to be spitting fire. Murderous intent surged from his body. He clearly wanted to kill Murong Yu. Song Tian was about to charge towards Murong Yu. However, at this moment, Feng Yongji took a step forward. He looked at Murong Yu and growled. Murong Yu, you said you have something that interests us? What is it? Murong Yu looked at Feng Yongji indifferently. You're the Hall Master of the true Martial Sacred Hall, right? The person who issued the true martial kill order me back then? TSK. You're just SOSO after seeing you today. Feng Yongji's face turned red. He regretted expelling Murong Yu from the true Martial Sacred Hall the most. If he had known that Murong Yu was a chaotic celestial, he might have already obtained Murong Yu's body or even successfully possessed it. He would not have spent so much effort to plot against Murong Yu. All right, I won't waste my breath on you old guys. I just want to ask, have you noticed that your teleportation formation can't be used? Seeing Feng Yongji and the others' expressions change, Murong knew that they must have noticed. Therefore, he continued, you must think that I bribed or controlled your people to destroy the teleportation formation, right? Feng Yongji and the others could not help but glance at Song Tian when he said that. Didn't Song Tian think of this possibility before? However, since Murong you dare to say that, the truth was definitely not so. I'm sorry, you've guessed wrong. The truth is, I've already wiped out the 9 great saint lands. After saying that, Murong no longer spoke. He stood in the air and looked at Feng Yongji and the others with a smile. Ha ha ha! Feng Yongji and the others were stunned at first before they burst out laughing. Even the current palace master of Peerless Palace, Lin Guyun, could not help but laugh. Murong, you're really good at joking. With just you alone, you can wipe out the 9 great saint lands? Are you here to make fun of us? Yuan Wei, the sect leader of Rising Sky Sect, pointed at Murong and laughed loudly. He thought Murong was hilarious. They did not believe that Murong had the ability to wipe out the 9 great saint lands in just a few days. Unless a supreme being made a move. Laugh. Laugh as much as you want. You'll be crying in a while. Murong laughed as well. Moreover, he laughed even more proudly. As he spoke, Murong waved his hand and 9 black shadows shot toward Feng Yongji and the others. Feng Yongji and the others were powerful, so they were not afraid of Murong playing tricks. Moreover, Murong did not play any tricks. Each of them grabbed one of the black shadows. As it turned out, it was a jade slip. The 9 of them looked grave when they used their divine consciousness to check the jade slip. The contents of the jade slip in their hands were actually the same. It was how their forces would look after being wiped out. It was just the scene of their respective sections. I know you don't believe me, but I can tell you that your forces have really been wiped out by me. Furthermore, I've already captured all of your people in the sect. Of course, I'll give you time to verify it. Is 10 days enough? I'll be back in 10 days. As he spoke, Murong's figure retreated rapidly. However, just as he retreated, Feng Yongji and the others attacked at the same time. Bang! However, before their attacks could land on Murong's body exploded on its own. Then, Murong's mocking laughter could be heard. You idiots! Do you think I'll be stupid enough to use my real body to come over? This is just a clone of my power. All right, you only have 10 days. His voice gradually disappeared and finally disappeared. Feng Yongji and the others looked in the direction where Murong disappeared with ashen faces. Then, they looked at Song Tian fiercely in unison. It's all because of your evil idea. If there's anything wrong with our forces, we'll hold you responsible. At this time, even if they were fools, they knew why Murong wanted to wipe out their forces. Exchange hostages. Moreover, Murong had more hostages in his hands, and they were more important. Because it was their entire orthodoxy, they had no choice but to exchange it. Song Tian's face darkened, and he snorted coldly. Don't talk about these useless things. Didn't you agree? With that, Song Tian rushed into Big Dipper Mountain without looking back. Only Feng Yongji and the others were left looking at each other. Chapter 1707. What? The 9 great sacred grounds of the human race were wiped out by Murong alone? Did Murong really wipe out the 9 great sacred ground alone? Murong's strength is actually so terrifying? Revenge. It's definitely revenge. Who asked the Human Race Alliance to shamelessly use Murong's wife and children to threaten Murong? Didn't Murong retaliate? And he's even more ruthless than the Human Race Alliance, directly wiping out their orthodoxies. Ruthless. Brilliant. I want to see if the shameless Human Race Alliance will exchange hostages or not. When Feng Yongji and the others sent people back to find out if the orthodoxies were really wiped out, the news had already spread throughout the entire holy world. When they heard the news, there were only 3 reactions. The first was that they didn't believe it. They didn't believe that Murong Yu was so terrifying. After they reacted, they felt that Murong Yu was very powerful, super powerful. In the end, everyone felt that Murong Yu's actions were right. On the contrary, the more Murong Yu did this, the more people felt that the Human Race Alliance was shameless. The reason why Murong Yu did this was because he was forced by the shameless Human Race Alliance. Many people even cheered because of Murong Yu's desperate counterattack. Wasn't the Human Race Alliance shameless? I'm going to be even more shameless than them. That's the way to deal with shameless people. While everyone was gloating, Feng Yongji and the others in the Human Race Alliance were extremely gloomy. This was because they realized that Murong Yu was telling the truth. In other words, the 9 great sacred grounds were really wiped out. They were shocked and furious. But more than that, they were terrified. Yes, they were terrified. How could Murong Yu be so powerful? In less than 10 days, he wiped out the 9 great sacred grounds, and no one from the 9 great sacred grounds escaped. All of them were captured. What realm had his strength reached? Could there be a supreme being behind him? The 9 people in the main hall were extremely gloomy, but no one spoke. Feng Yongji and the others were even more regretful. Was it a mistake for them to agree to Song Tian's scheme? The destruction of the entire Holy Land made them the greatest sinners of their respective forces, the kind that cannot be forgiven. Feng Yongji and Lin Guiyun were especially terrified. It was one thing for the other sacred grounds, but they didn't have any supremes above them. Even if the Holy Land was destroyed, no one would hold them accountable. However, they were different. It wasn't that they were scared of being slapped to death by supreme beings, but rather that they felt ashamed, unable to face their ancestors. Tell me, what should we do? Tiangang Sect's sect master, Shui Juanhao, couldn't help but speak first. Lin Guiyun frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Murong Yu's counterattack destroyed our sacred grounds. It was just an exchange of hostages. I propose an exchange with them. Then, I'll pretend that it never happened. Feng Yongji and the others nodded. Only Song Tian, who had a vicious expression, remained silent. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Do you think that Murong Yu would exchange hostages with us so easily, using those people to exchange for all of our people? If it were you, would you do that? Song Tian said after a long while. Feng Yongji and the others' faces darkened. Although they had captured quite a number of Shengzhen's disciples, the number was incomparable to one of their holy lands, let alone the 9 great holy lands. Murong Yu definitely wouldn't use the 9 great holy lands to exchange for Kurlan and the rest. If they wanted to exchange for the rest of the people, they would definitely have to pay a huge price. What price would they use to exchange for them? The treasuries of the 9 great holy lands had all been taken by Murong Yu. Even though they had quite a number of treasures, every one of them was extremely precious. It would be a pity to exchange for them. No matter what, we must exchange for them. We will exchange for as much as we can. If we don't, then we will disappoint them and everyone in the world. Lin Guiyun said solemnly. At the same time, she looked at Song Tian unhappily. I really regret that I didn't insist on opposing your actions back then. The other controllers also nodded slightly, feeling something in their hearts. If not for Song Tian's scheme, they wouldn't be like this. In the end, Feng Yongji and the others decided to exchange hostages. Only Song Tian disagreed. But now that the hostages were in Feng Yongji's hands, he couldn't do anything even if he disagreed. Moreover, it was 8 against 1. If Song Tian continued to insist and infuriated Feng Yongji and the others, he would probably be suppressed by the 8 of them. At this point, they didn't want any more unforeseen events to happen. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Murong Yu appeared in the sky above Stellar Sky City. Behind him and around him were layers and layers of experts. These people weren't Xianhua, Yang Hao, and the others. After all, they were from the evil demon race and the angel race. They didn't show themselves this time. These people came from all over the world to watch the show. Among them, there was no lack of experts on the saint rankings. Of course, the powerful Murong Yu could sense that quite a few of these people were harboring ill intentions. Some of them even showed killing intent towards him. They probably wanted to snatch Murong-Yu's things, or even Murong-Yu's physical body. However, since Murong-Yu dared to show himself in public and wasn't afraid of these people watching, he wasn't worried about these people at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Feng Yongji and the others quickly appeared in front of Murong-Yu. Not a single one of the rulers of the 8 great holy lands remained, all of them present. In addition to them, there were many experts on the saint rankings and other experts from the Human Race Great Alliance behind them. However, these people didn't look good. They all glared at Murong-Yu with murderous looks. After all, Murong-Yu's actions had embarrassed the Human Race Great Alliance. They couldn't raise their heads in front of others anymore. Moreover, among those captured by Murong-Yu, there were their elders, juniors, relatives, and so on. They didn't think that if they hadn't been shameless first, would Murong-Yu have done this? Of course, Murong-Yu would do this sooner or later. After all, he would unify the human race sooner or later. However, Song Tian's conspiracy had caused Murong-Yu to act much earlier. Murong-Yu, did you bring them? Feng Yongji looked at Murong-Yu and said with a gloomy face. Although they didn't continue to communicate, everyone knew that they were going to exchange hostages. What did you bring? Hearing Feng Yongji's words, Murong-Yu was stunned and confused. Song Tian thought that Murong-Yu was pretending, so he snorted coldly. Cut the crap. Didn't you want to exchange hostages? We brought your people here without any harm. Hurry up and hand over our people. Looking at the gloomy Song Tian, Murong-Yu mocked him. I'm curious. When did I say that I wanted to exchange hostages? Thump. Hearing this, Feng Yongji and the others' hearts skipped a beat. Could it be that Murong-Yu didn't want to exchange hostages? Song Tian was furious and blurted out, You're shameless. Murong-Yu laughed out loud. Are you shameless, Song Tian, or am I shameless? Also, did I say that I wanted to exchange hostages? What did I say that? I don't think so. Did I? Murong-Yu didn't reply. Feng Yongji and the others' faces turned ugly. Enough. Murong-Yu, what do you want? Lin Guyun stepped forward and said with an ugly expression. Bai Luo also stared at Murong-Yu with an ugly expression. No one knew what she was thinking. Murong-Yu smiled. I don't want to do anything. I'm just here to exchange hostages today. Pooh. Hearing Murong-Yu's words, Song Tian and the others almost spat out blood. Wasn't this a scam? Your people are all fine and haven't been harmed. They're all in this spatial treasure. Murong-Yu, hand over our men as well. Feng Yongji said to Murong-Yu with a much better expression as he walked over. Murong-Yu shook his head. Hand over my people first. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Right now, Murong-Yu controlled the lives of countless people in the 9 holy lands. If he didn't take the initiative, then he would have lived in vain. Do you think I'm stupid? Song Tian roared before Feng Yongji could speak. Murong-Yu looked at Song Tian as if he was looking at an idiot. If you're not stupid, then who is? If you're not stupid, why would you come up with such a sinister idea? The other holy lands are easy to deal with, but I need to think carefully about the disciples of Cloud-Piercing Island. Song Tian, stand aside. If you make me unhappy again, do you believe that I won't kill all the disciples of Cloud-Piercing Island? You? Song Tian was furious. He wanted to slap Murong-Yu to death, but he didn't dare, because if he wanted to attack, the first to stop him would be Feng Yongji and the others. In the end, Song Tian bitterly walked to the side. Murong-Yu, I hope you can keep your promise. Feng Yongji said. Then, he threw the spatial treasure containing Kurlan and the others to Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu hurriedly checked the surroundings. After confirming that no one was injured or killed, a smile appeared on his face. A total of 90,000 Glory Sect disciples have been taken down by you guys. Forget it. Let's count it as a few 100,000. Among them, there are 4 experts on the holy list, as well as the primal chaos ancestor sage. Murong-Yu slowly reported the number of people and cultivation realms of Kurlan and the others. Hearing Murong-Yu's words, Feng Yongji and the others had a bad feeling. Sure enough, after Murong-Yu finished reporting, he said, This time, I will only release 100,000 people. 100,000 sages with the same cultivation realms. As for the distribution of those experts, apart from Cloud-Piercing Island, you can discuss among yourselves. All right, there's not much time. If you can't come to an agreement after half a day, you won't want your people. Morongyu, how can you do this? Bailuo asked angrily. One must know that every holy land had at least a few 100 million disciples. Releasing 100,000 people wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. Morongyu just smiled faintly. There's not much time. Of course, if you don't want these 100,000 people, then I'll leave. After saying that, Morongyu made a gesture to leave. Chapter 1708. Feng Yongji and the others were shocked. As Murongyu's enemies, they had done their research on Morongyu. They knew that Morongyu was not only loyal to his friends, but he was also a man of his words. If they continued to dawdle, Morongyu would really leave immediately. After discussing for a while, they seemed to have reached a conclusion. However, Feng Yongji and Lin Guyun's expressions were still a little better. On the other hand, the expressions of the rulers of the other sacred grounds were extremely ugly. True Martial Temple, Unparalleled Palace, Heavenly Dipper Sect, and Purple Thunder Hall each had a spot on the saint rankings. As for the other holy lands, they naturally didn't have any holy land slots, so their expressions were naturally ugly. However, who asked these experts from the holy lands to be slightly stronger than them? In truth, the true Martial Temple should be ranked first among the 9 great holy lands, excluding the Seamless Society. The Unparalleled Palace was naturally second. Outside the Unparalleled Palace was the Tiangang sect, and the fourth was the Piercing Cloud Island. However, Piercing Cloud Island was directly ruled out by Morongyu. Thus, the 5th-ranked Purple Thunder Hall was chosen. This made the rulers of the other holy lands unhappy. But Song Tian was even more unhappy. However, even if Song Tian could not wait to slap Morongyu to death, Song Tian did not dare to do so. However, they did not dare to make any moves. Just as he had said before, if he dared to make a move, the first to make a move would be Feng Yongji and the others. After all, if Song Tian dared to make a move, he would anger Morongyu. Now that Morongyu was angry, they would have to pay a huge price. Soon, Morongyu released the disciples of the 8 great holy lands according to their corresponding realms, according to the quota they had discussed. Boom! Just after those people were released, Song Tian finally could not help but make a move. He took a ferocious step forward, gathered all the strength he could muster in his right fist, and punched towards Morongyu. A cold, killing intent flashed in Morongyu's eyes, but a smile appeared on his face. He didn't seem to make any movements, but he also threw out a punch. However, unlike Song Tian's lightning-fast speed, Morongyu's fist was extremely slow. There was almost no movement, but it was paradoxically very fast. In the blink of an eye, before the people around them could even react, their fists had already fiercely collided in the air. Bang! At the moment the fists collided, a figure was sent flying. At this moment, the surrounding people finally saw it clearly. The one who flew out was actually Song Tian. Song Tian, the island master of the Cloud-Piercing Island, was extremely powerful. Among the rulers of the 9 great holy lands of the human race, his strength was ranked 3rd. However, he was so weak that he was sent flying by Morongyu's punch. Feng Yongji and the others who wanted to stop Song Tian were stunned, and so were the onlookers in the distance. They were all stunned by Morongyu's strength. This was especially so for those who knew that Song Tian was powerful and were also powerful themselves. For example, Feng Yongji and Lin Guyun. With their strength, they could defeat Song Tian, but it would take a huge battle to determine the winner. However, Morongyu seemed to have sent Song Tian flying with a casual punch. Puffed. In the air, Song Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. His old face flushed red with embarrassment. An incomparably strong sense of humiliation filled his entire body, causing him to almost faint. "Old man, I've been unhappy with you for a long time. If not for the hundreds of millions of lives of the cloud-piercing island's disciples in my hands, I would have smashed your old face with a slap and killed you directly. Don't flaunt your seniority. I hate people like you the most. Remember, if you want me to release your cloud-piercing island's disciples, you have to give me 3 supreme weapons. I'll give you 1 year. If you don't have 3 supreme weapons, don't blame me for being impolite and killing all the disciples of the cloud-piercing island. Murong Yu snorted coldly, then took a step forward and disappeared. He disappeared? Just as the crowd was getting excited over Murong Yu's scolding of Song Tian, they suddenly realized that Murong Yu had disappeared. That shouldn't be the case. Isn't the space here already sealed? How could he enter the Hichu Luo Shu? In the crowd, a powerhouse was puzzled. Feng Yongji glared fiercely at the powerhouse who had spoken, a cold, murderous intent flashing across his eyes. Because that person was not from a human clan's Great Alliance. The human clan's Great Alliance had not planned such a scheme. After all, their disciples were now in Murong Yu's hands. If Murong Yu was captured or killed, then their disciples would not be able to return, or their disciples would be taken by someone else. At that time, they could still threaten them. Therefore, they did not wish for Murong Yu to die or be captured. Pooh! Hearing Murong Yu's words, Song Tian could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. 3 supreme being weapons? Do you think supreme being weapons are common goods? 2 supreme artifacts. Song Tian cursed in his heart. He hated Murong Yu to the core. The Seamless Society only had 3 supreme artifacts. As one of the Holy Lands, the cloud-piercing island had at least 2 supreme artifacts. However, what Murong Yu wanted were the 3 supreme artifacts. Even if the cloud-piercing island had 3 supreme artifacts, Song Tian had already recognized one of them as its master. His compatibility with the supreme artifact was not bad, but it had taken him a long time to achieve that. If he had 3 supreme artifacts, he would have to give his supreme artifact to Murong Yu and erase his connection with the supreme artifact. That way, the cloud-piercing island would no longer have a supreme artifact. Was a holy land without a supreme artifact still a holy land? Perhaps the cloud-piercing island could still maintain its name as a holy land for a few more years by relying on the protective mountain array and various other treasures. However, they had nothing now. Once they lost their supreme artifacts, they would no longer be worthy of being one of the 10 great holy lands. However, could Song Tian not exchange? Those were hundreds of millions of disciples. If that happened, he would definitely break the hearts of the people of the cloud-piercing island and the entire world. Right, the other 8 great holy lands must also prepare 2 supreme artifacts. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Of course, you can take me. However, I can't guarantee what will happen in the process. Just as Song Tian spat out blood, Murong Yu's voice drifted over with the wind. Pooh! Song Tian spat out another mouthful of blood. In any case, he had already lost enough face. It didn't matter if he spat out more blood. He would have to pay the price of another supreme artifact in order to redeem the disciples of the cloud-piercing island. How could he not spit out blood? Everyone disperse. Otherwise, I will assume that you are attacking the great alliance of the human race. Feng Yongji's expression was ugly as he swept his gaze over the people around him. Then, he quickly entered the layers of fog of the Big Dipper Mountain. The people who had come to inquire about the situation also dispersed like a swarm of bees. This was the headquarters of the Great Alliance of the human race. If they continue to stay here, they might really be killed by the Human Race Alliance of the human race. This is too much. Too much. After returning to the Great Alliance of the human race, Song Tian roared. This guy was about to be burned by his own anger. How can you all be so calm? Not even the slightest bit angry? Don't tell me you all want to give Murong Yu a supreme artifact? Seeing Feng Yongji and the rest calm expressions, Song Tian felt that it was a little inconceivable. Lin Gian glanced at Song Tian indifferently. What's the use of being angry? Will anger be able to get our disciples back? Let's think of a way. Song Tian was instantly speechless. Anger was really useless. However, he was really unwilling to hand over 3 supreme artifacts in exchange. In the Hichu Luo Shu, the vast and boundless land was filled with people. All the disciples of the 9 great saint lands, close to 10 billion saints, were gathered here. In the void in front of them, there was a black-robed youth floating in the air. This black-robed youth was naturally Murongyu. I'm sure everyone saw what happened just now. Whether or not you all can leave will depend on the person in charge of your faction. Those are 2 supreme artifacts. I'm sure if they want to exchange them for you all, they'll be able to take them out. Murongyu first swept a glance at the saints whose strength had been sealed, then indifferently said, "That's right." Although his voice wasn't loud, the 10 billion people heard it clearly. Hearing Murongyu's words, the disciples of the true martial temple and unparalleled palace heaved a sigh of relief. Using 2 supreme artifacts to exchange for hundreds of millions of their people, they believed that their Saint Lord would choose to do the exchange. However, the hundreds of millions of disciples of the cloud-piercing island had uncertain expressions. Some people firmly believed that Song Tian would take out 3 supreme artifacts to exchange for them, but some people didn't think so. After all, those were 3 supreme artifacts. If it were them, would they exchange them? Some people were immediately certain in their hearts they wouldn't exchange. It was better to die than to die. Only one's own life was the most precious. It was the same as the Saint Lord's disciple. My friends from the cloud-piercing island are in danger. However, you all don't have to worry. Perhaps Song Tian will take out 1 or 2 supreme artifacts to exchange for some of you. If that happens, will he exchange you all at once? Or will he exchange you for someone he chooses? Just as the disciples of the cloud-piercing island had uncertain expressions, Murongyu sneered and said those words. Then, without waiting for them to react, Murongyu waved his hand and sent them to the other side of Hichu Luo Shu. He had isolated the 9 great saint lands. Otherwise, there might be some scenes of grudges that would cause a big fight. In the end, Murongyu left the unparalleled palace alone. Murongyu, how can you do this? Our unparalleled palace has never done anything to you. In the crowd, a beautiful woman stood up and pointed at Murongyu as she scolded angrily. The disciples of the unparalleled palace around her were immediately shocked, and some of the stronger ones forcibly suppressed the woman who spoke. Then, they nervously said to Murongyu, "I'm sorry, my junior sister is still young and doesn't know any better. Please don't take offense." Murongyu waved his hand. "It's fine. Let senior sister Fei Yuqin continue." Fei Yuqin was the beautiful woman who had represented the unparalleled palace in the 10 great saint lands exchange at the true martial temple. She could be considered an old acquaintance of Murongyu. Chapter 1709. Hearing that, everyone from Unparalleled Palace was stunned. They did not expect Murongyu to be so friendly. Based on the rumors they had heard about Murongyu and Murongyu's current status, he could not even look at them. In fact, if it were anyone else, they would have killed Fei Yuqin on the spot after hearing what she said. However, Murongyu was behaving like that. He even called Fei Yuqin's senior sister politely. Towards Murongyu's attitude, even Fei Yuqin could not believe it, let alone the others from Unparalleled Palace. After all, although Murongyu was her peer not too long ago, he was now a super expert who had suppressed the 9 great saint lands. The difference in status and strength between the two of them was huge. Could this be a gentleness? Don't be fooled by Murongyu's smiling face. Was he hiding a dagger in his smile and waiting for the next moment to kill Fei Yuqin? In an instant, many disciples from Unparalleled Palace had the same thought in their minds. Furthermore, a few people beside Fei Yuqin even stopped her and looked at Murongyu cautiously. Murongyu's current strength was stronger than everyone from Unparalleled Palace. This was especially true for the ordinary saints who were closer to Murongyu. As a result, Murongyu's casual thought nearly caused him to vomit blood. That was because he realized that many disciples from Unparalleled Palace thought that his friendliness was actually a conspiracy. However, did he need any conspiracy to deal with these people? With one slap, all of them would die. However, Murong-Yu's expression changed slightly, and many people from Unparalleled Palace noticed it. Therefore, these people were even more certain that Murong-Yu's actions were a conspiracy to deal with them. Sensing their thoughts, Murong-Yu is speechless. Senior sisters, don't stop me. I want to speak. Murong-Yu shouldn't be that kind of person. Fei Yuqin was being controlled by her senior sisters. However, as the genius disciple of the Unparalleled Palace's younger generation, her physical cultivation was much stronger than others. Therefore, she quickly broke free from his control. Then he began to shout. At this time, Fei Yuqin's senior sisters were also speechless. If they tried to stop them, they didn't know what would happen. If Murong-Yu really wanted to kill them, even if Fei Yuqin didn't say anything, she would still kill them. Murong-Yu, what do you want? Why aren't you letting us go? Do you want to kill all of us? Our Unparalleled Palace has no enmity with you. Fei Yuqin broke free from the control and scolded Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu's face instantly darkened. Your holy lord Lin Guiyun and the other leaders of the Human Race Alliance work together to deal with me. They even capture my family to threaten me. How is this not a grudge? Our holy lord is definitely not that kind of person. She will definitely stop this matter. However, her strength is limited. She doesn't have the final say in the Human Race Alliance. Fei Yuqin said agitatedly. Murong-Yu's face darkened. Fei Yuqin spoke as if she personally saw Lin Guiyu stopping Song Tian. However, Fei Yuqin had always been in the Unparalleled Palace. Otherwise, she wouldn't have appeared in the Hichu Luo Shu. Therefore, Murong-Yu said unhappily, don't tell me you saw Lin Guiyun stopping Song Tian. Fei Yuqin was stunned. Then, she shook her head. She wasn't even there. How could she have seen it? However, she still said stubbornly, our holy lord is definitely not that kind of shameless person. She must have her reasons. All right. Seeing that the agitated Fei Yuqin wanted to continue explaining, Murong-Yu quickly waved his hand to stop her. Otherwise, she wouldn't stop. I didn't want to let your Unparalleled Palace go. Even if I don't have the 2 supreme artifacts, I will still let you go. However, you have to stay here temporarily. Hearing Murong-Yu's words, the Unparalleled Palace's people didn't believe him at first. They also didn't believe him at first. Then why didn't you let us go earlier, or it didn't capture us at all? Fei Yuqin was stunned. Then she blurted out. The rest of the Unparalleled Palace nodded their heads in agreement. Murong-Yu was helpless. He was angered by these long-haired but short-sighted women. Use your brains and think. If I didn't capture your Unparalleled Palace or let you go first, wouldn't the other Holy Lands think that I'm on the same side as the Unparalleled Palace? As for the bad consequences, I'll leave it to you to imagine. With that, Murong-Yu left in a flash. Fei Yuqin and the rest were stunned. Then they broke out in cold sweat. If Murong-Yu really didn't capture them or let them go first, it would definitely arouse the suspicions of the other 8 Holy Lands. In the end, the 8 Holy Lands would even join forces to deal with the Unparalleled Palace. Murong-Yu, why didn't you take the opportunity to suppress the Human Alliance and control Feng Yongji, Song Tian, and the rest to unify the human race? Murong-Yu had just appeared beside Xianhua and Yang Hao when he heard Xianhua's confused voice. Murong-Yu's current strength was enough to suppress the Great Ten Alliance. It was enough to unify the human race. But why didn't he do anything? Murong-Yu smiled faintly and asked a seemingly unrelated question. Do you know why the human race can go against the demon race and even the entire holy race? Although they've always been at a disadvantage, they haven't been suppressed or chased out of the holy world. In fact, the human race even occupies many good places because the human race has many top-notch experts. Xianhua and Yang Hao said at the same time. The top-notch experts they were talking about were the supreme experts and the holy rankings. As for the ruler, there is only one ruler in the entire holy world, heaven. And their small skirmishes were like child's play in the eyes of heaven. Perhaps heaven wanted the various races to go to war. That way, there would be even less people who could threaten his ruling position. Generally speaking, as long as there was no threat to heaven, heaven couldn't be bothered to take a look. What did the life and death of others have to do with him? In the immemorial era, the human race forcefully ascended from the lower realm. At that time, the human race was extremely weak, but the holy race didn't take the human race seriously. However, by the time they reacted and wanted to suppress the human race had already risen. Moreover, the human race's greatest asset was their race. In a short period of time, they developed into a large race, a race that could contend against the demon race and even the holy race. That was because the human race had a supreme expert, and they weren't weak. Therefore, the human race finally achieved their current status. However, a long time ago, all the supreme experts disappeared. They disappeared overnight and never appeared in the holy world again. As a result, the holy ranking experts dominated the holy world, and there were no more supreme experts. In the top 10 of the holy ranking, there's a Yu Yangjia who's a disciple of the unbroken path. Morong Yu, he's your senior brother. With a senior brother like you as a backer, you have no pressure at all to unify the human race. Yang Hao frowned slightly, still somewhat puzzled. However, Xianhua thought of another layer. Morong Yu, you're saying that the human race has an existence in the top 10 of the holy ranking, and his ranking is even higher than Yu Yangjia? The moment these words came out, Xianhua was shocked. Yang Hao also looked at Morong Yu with a face full of shock. One had to know that although the top 10 experts on the holy ranking knew their names, their identities were very secretive, and Yu Yangjia was just an exception. After all, he was a disciple of the unbroken path. His name was already there. The people of the 10 holy lands knew it was him the moment they heard it. However, was it possible for the human race to have 10 terrifying existences in the top 10 of the holy ranking? Morong Yu nodded. Moreover, this person was hidden in the human race Great Alliance. However, this person was very powerful, and his concealment ability was even more powerful. Even Morong Yu did not discover him. Of course, this was because Morong Yu did not carefully sense when he entered the human race Great Alliance. However, the layers of fog of Big Dipper Mountain blocked all divine telekinesis probing. Therefore, he could not see anything inside. However, Morong Yu was certain that there was definitely such an expert inside. Hearing Morong Yu's explanation, Yang Hao and Xianhua could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Morong Yu was only guessing. He did not believe it. After all, it seemed that even the Phoenix clan did not have such a person. How could the human race have two? The human race Great Alliance does have an expert in the top 10 of the holy ranking. At this moment, a somewhat young voice was heard. At the same time, a figure appeared beside Morong Yu. It was the little lowly carrying a giant axe. Little lowly? Really? Yang Hao and Xianhua were stunned by the little lowly's words. Xianhua could not help but ask, Birdman, what are you talking about? Do you believe that I won't chop you to death with my axe? Little lowly looked at Xianhua with an angry look on her face. What she hated the most was others calling her little lowly. What she liked the most was to be called the unparalleled beauty of the heavens and the earth, the moon, the flowers, the fish, and the geese. Xianhua looked at the huge axe on the little lowly's shoulder and couldn't help but shiver. This giant axe was too strange, and it seemed that the little lowly's ranking on the holy rankings was higher than his. He couldn't even compare to a little girl now. Immediately, Xianhua looked at the little lowly with a drooling face. Unparalleled beauty in the heavens and the earth. The moon shames the flowers, the fish and the geese fall. May I ask if what you said just now is true? Morong Yu and Yang Hao both staggered and almost fell to the ground. Shameless. How could this guy be so shameless? Therefore, the two of them looked at Xianhua with disdain. But Xianhua just chuckled. The little lowly immediately smiled and walked to Xianhua's side. She wanted to reach out and pat Xianhua's shoulder. But Xianhua was tall and strong. She couldn't pat him at all, but Xianhua was quite cooperative and lowered his body. Shameless. Really too despicable. Morong Yu and Yang Hao were both full of disdain for Xianhua and did not hesitate to show it. Young man, you did well. You're comparable to Old Black. Little Purple has Old Black, and I've always been envious of her. You can be my Old Black from now on. PFFF, hearing this, Moron, you spat out. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.